Good morning, everyone. I hope you had a good night last night and rested good, and welcome back to our state board meeting. It's been a while since we've had a two-day meeting, but I think we had a lot of things to cover yesterday, and I'm looking forward to some good reports today. So before we begin, join me in a moment of silence. Thank you. Do we have any changes to the agenda? Okay, new business. So we are ready for reports this morning.
Ms. Newton, before we get to reports, if I may, I want to introduce Michael Stone, who is on the Zoom. I know we have the Lee County report later when Stacy comes up, but Mr. Stone is very well, he's on the ground running in Lee County, and he has a number of things that he's doing today regarding facilities. So he needs to just be on briefly, and then if we can allow him to move on to the rest of his day. But I want to give him an opportunity to meet you all virtually. We will make sure he's here sometime later in person, but Michael Stone came to us from North Little Rock and has a long career there, many levels of education, elementary school, principal, central office, and I'm so glad that he has agreed to return home to Marianna to lead the Marianna, or the Lee County School District in Marianna. So Michael, please greet the board and say anything that you might have on your mind today.
Good morning. I like to just say I'm very humble and excited to be back home. I'm looking forward to meeting the students and the community and staff. I certainly appreciate this opportunity. I'm looking forward to presenting to you some positive news in the future, and just excited to get going. We start school on the 25th of this month, so I am on the ground running, making sure that things are ready for our students to return. Very pleased to meet you and looking forward to meeting you in person in the future.
Well, welcome. We're thrilled that you're there. We're looking forward at July 25th. That's just a couple of days away, it feels like. So I know you are running, but we appreciate your willingness to step in, and we're looking forward to hear some great things from Lee County.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
Ms. Smith, did you have anything that you want to add while we've got him?
No, he really literally has hit the ground running, and he is like 9:30 today. They're doing facilities checks, and he's got facilities people there, and they're doing walkthroughs, but just been very impressed with him, and I'm looking forward to the year. So congratulations.
Thank you.
Thank you for joining us this morning. Don't get too hot today.
Yes, ma'am. Yeah, have a great day.
All right, you too. All right, so we will move to our board reports. Mr. Sutton, you're online. Do you have something you'd like to share this morning? Okay, all right. So we'll go with the rest of the board. Someone have something they want to share? Okay, I know I'm going to get a cattle prod to Mr. Henderson and Ms. McFetridge if I have to, but I want them to share a little bit about the PLC Institute they went to last week.
Yes, I really enjoy. I've been busy this month, actually. I went to the PLC conference in Fayetteville that they had the virtual conference, and they had over 200 of their teachers there. And the conference was very similar to the one that we did in person last week, but and then again as a school board member in Springdale, I was actually able to see a PLC meeting and progress several times, and so I really think that the PLC process is something that is in great value to our schools in the state, and I'm so excited to see it coming forward, and so many schools really bringing it on, learning about it. It's a wonderful process of teachers really working together, learning together, and staying focused on each individual child and what each child needs. So I'm really excited about it. As a board, I hope we can go and visit some more schools to really observe it, because I think once you observe it, it really makes, a lot of sense.
Okay. Thank you, Ms. McFetters. Mr. Henderson?
Yeah, it's my first time to actually attend an event such of that kind. I was very, very impressed. I've attended a lot of conferences. So when you attend these conferences, at times you really don't know what to expect. I left there feeling very excited. A lot of positive stuff was shared. And I made a couple of notes. One thing that really stood out that really draw my attention. It was a very dynamic speaker. And one thing that he said, education is an investment, not an expenditure. So
Yeah.
that really, went a long way with me. And another thing, they pointed out was partial commitment is like no commitment at all. I think that, so many times in instances where people make commitments, they try to straddle the fence, but, that was some really good, takeaways from that conference. Very inclusive. I like the approach of, want to move everyone forward, not just some, but move everyone forward. Thank you.
Yeah, it was a great conference, and we've talked about, Dan, have you got the slide that shows all 5 columns? Can you put that up? We've talked about how that as a board we want to get involved in the process, and I gave this to you last time, how that we want to work on that 5th side. I also have a video that I thought about showing you, but I think I'm gonna wait because we only have 5 board members here, and that video goes to the why of what we're going to do, and I think I'll wait till next month to do that, because when we have more of our board here. But this process, and I'm going to go back in time, and I'm going to date myself a little bit, but if you go back in time to when ACT-OUT first started, it was a new thing to teachers, and we were going to be held accountable for our kids being proficient in the classroom, and I was probably mid-career, I guess, probably at that time. And anyway, they gathered a group of us together and said each one of your groups need to set some goals of what you want to do for as far as setting goals for your kids. And so we got in the group and we started a discussion, and somebody said, well, what do we think we needed our goals set? And I said what I thought was the most obvious thing to say. I said 100% as our goal. And you know what the teachers in the group did? They laughed. They thought I was joking when I said that. And so what any introvert does, I shut down, didn't say anything else. And I went back to my classroom and did my thing. But this PLC process sets everyone working together. I went back to my classroom and I did my very best for my students. But one of the things that I've learned in the science behind this, and they brought this out so well at the Institute, was I don't have everything that every student needs. I don't have the ability to meet the needs of every single student. But when we put ourselves together in a group and we work together, I can help somebody else's, they can help mine, and we can work together, because these are all of our kids. I don't just have the kids that are in my classroom. These are all kids, all teachers, all staff, everyone working together to meet the needs of every child that's in that district. And the science is behind it now. And that's what, this is not a program, this is not the new best thing. This is a process that's backed by science that is going to help us. Remember what our vision as a state is? To lead the nation in what? Student-focused learning. That's what this is. This is student-focused learning, and this is getting us there. And so that's a little bit of the why of why we're going to work on that first column there. And I think we'll wait next month when we have more people here as a board to maybe get a little bit deeper into that and maybe set some goals as a board of what we might want to do. But this process is going to help us reach that goal of all means all. You know, and we, you know, if it's your child out there that I don't have the skills to meet, wouldn't you want me to reach out to somebody else and find what that child needs and get that child help for what they need? That's what this does. And I think as a board, we can help. You know, we can't go into every classroom, but we can help lead the process and make the opportunity available for everyone. So this PLC is something that, as a board, I think that we want to get behind and to work toward. Missy, do you have something else that you'd like to add from the PLC Institute from last week that you would like to add? You'll have to come to the microphone because we're live streaming. I know I'm putting you on the spot this morning, but I may need to get Ms. Freno up here because she's the cheerleader for some of the speakers, so we'll...
Good morning, Missy Wally, Director of Special Projects. I just want to say thank you. Thank you for attending. It means a lot. It meant a lot to our educators to see our state board members there, and it means a lot as a state for everyone to see that you're representing, and all means all. It doesn't just mean
Yes.
the educators, but us as leading the students, the community, all adults. So just thank you, and we are going to discuss this more next month, so I'll hold off on all of that, but I did want to say thank you.
Okay. All right. Any other board members have something you want to add?
Yes,
Ms.
I do.
Mahridge?
I also was on the NASB nominating committee last week, and we put some names forward, and their board is going to vote on those names, but one of the names was our Dr. Sarah Moore as president-elect, and I'm not really allowed to say until their board votes on it, but anyways, it was exciting to look at all the nominees and work on the committee. So, yeah, thank you.
All right, that's exciting news.
It is,
Yes,
yeah.
yes. All right. Randy?
One thing I also failed to mention, last month, I had the incredible opportunity of attending a national Be Pro, Be Proud conference in Bentonville, Arkansas. I tell you, it was an exceptional conference. We had leaders from all over the country. Lots of amazing stuff is happening right now with Be Pro, Be Proud. If you haven't heard anything about or don't know of Be Pro, Be Proud, I highly suggest you do. Thank you.
Yes, it's a great program that gives kids the opportunity to see what each career might look like. So it's a great thing. Anyone else? All right, so we will move on to our Teacher of the Year. Ms. Salm is joining us virtually this morning. Welcome.
Good morning. Can you
Good
hear me
morning.
okay?
Yes.
Okay, wonderful. There we go. Okay, so I am going to share my ATOY report with you all today. July 1st, officially began my year of service, but I just wanted to share this picture. It was from April when I got to visit the White House with the other state teachers of the year, and it was just such an amazing experience. Dan, if you'll go to the next slide, please. So this was my first day on the job. This was July 1st, and I can't even express the feelings of walking in and seeing that picture hanging on the wall there. I messaged Liz Massey from Cabot, and I said, who could have imagined when we took that picture that it would be hanging at the department? She just, after assembly at school, she grabbed me and we stepped outside on one of the campuses and just took that headshot to be able to get my application in and on time for the state position. And that afternoon I hopped in the car with my mom and headed home to visit family. So I couldn't have imagined a year ago that picture would be hanging there. So it was just really, really special to see. Dan, if you'll go to the next one. A lot of you know that my husband has spent a lot of time away from us in the last year, and he returned home at the end of June. So the picture with him and my children is where we are now. We are on our vacation as a family with my parents and my brother and his wife. And so that's why I'm not here in person today. But then on the right is him arriving home from that 413 days away from us. So yes, it was a long time, but we are so grateful to be a family again. And like I said, I'm sorry I'm not there, but we had planned this trip, and I'm excited we can all be together as a family. So if you'll go to the next one, I wanted to share that in June, I, along with multiple other Arkansas Teachers of the Year, recorded episodes for Arkansas Rise and Shine. And this is that summer programming for kindergarten through 5th grade students that just helps with some learning loss. It helps students retain information, and it's airing on Arkansas PBS through the first week of August. It started July 5th. But this, if you are not familiar with this, if your schools, if the children you know are not familiar, this is just amazing programming. I signed my children up to receive power packets in the mail. So those have come to us along with a deck of cards and crayons. They sent resources. And so children all across our state at no cost are getting these resources into their homes. They're getting, national PBS programming, but little mini lessons between 4 and 6 minutes taught to them by multiple Arkansas Teachers of the Year. I had a huge appreciation. Some of you will probably remember when our schools did have to shut down in March of 2020, how we were able to pivot and provide this instruction in home for students. And Joel and Randy did all that programming. I had no idea how much work was involved in it. I know that my students utilized the programming because we had the power packets, and I would try to adapt them for the diverse learners that I work with. I know my own children used that programming, but I have a whole new appreciation for the work and dedication that went into providing that. Arkansas students are better because of it. And what our state was able to do to support students during COVID and then continue to provide this instruction throughout the summer, it's amazing. My own children call these teachers, these multiple Teachers of the Year by name. Oh, look, it's Randy, it's Stacy. They know these teachers. And the fact that they can have these educators brought into their homes, that our children across our state can have our best educators brought into their homes and teach them every day over the summer, it's such a privilege and it's such an honor. So if you haven't checked that out, I highly recommend it. There's videos on PBS's website as well as YouTube. So if you'll go to the next slide. So of course, this face is familiar to you all. Susanna just finished her PBS and Arkansas Ideas, Closing the Empathy Gap recording. And so she just that professional development. And so if you'll go to the next one as well, this is amazing that we have someone from the department, we have 3 ATOYs, and then we have a Missouri Teacher of the Year that all were able to sit in on the panel, discuss Susanna's passion work, discuss our very different experiences in closing the empathy gap and working with different students and addressing those empathy needs. And I'm so impressed by her and the work she's doing. So I'm very excited for this resource to reach all of the educators across our state and be a tool that we can continue to use. I don't have a slide for this, so we can just leave this here, but I also attended the PLC conference. And I can just echo the sentiments that you all shared. Something that I brought out of it, I wrote down, was that we are not working, these collaborative teams are not groups, they're teams. And if you've played a sport, if you've had a child play a sport, if you're a fan of sports, you can appreciate what a team is. And it is, members that are committed to reaching that same goal. So it's just that student-focused learning. And I think about how this PLC project ties in with the Inclusive Practices project and getting back to that all means all. When we have a team of teachers working together, when I cannot teach the students I have because I don't have the resources or the knowledge, or I just am not able to reach them, to know that I have a team to work with that can better support me, that can better support my students, students win. And I see this. I've seen it in an occupational therapist that worked in our school that came into my classroom and taught a lesson to the whole class, not even just the students she served, but to the whole class, and supported me. I've seen it in the math interventionist that pulled some of my highest achieving learners out of class to work with them, to give them some supplemental support. You know, it's amazing. And when we work together, when we work as a team, not just a group, because everyone hates a group project because one person always does more, right? But as a team, when we're focused on that goal, it's amazing what we can do. And I agree. I was so encouraged by what I heard and what I saw from the speakers. I think there was over like 1,700 educators there. I haven't been to a conference that big in years, and to see people from all across our nation committing to doing what's best for students, amazing things are happening in Arkansas, and I'm just so excited to be a part of it. So if you can go to the next slide as well. This is just one of the opportunities I've had this summer to lead professional development. This was at Cabot. I started in June, and I have speaking engagements lined up through August right now. I'm working with some teachers through different co-ops, our novice teachers who we know need extra support. We know that we need to support them. Those first few years are hard, and that's some of the most delicate time where we can lose educators. So I'm going to be working with some of the co-ops to speak to novice teachers. I have an opportunity to speak to all of the special education teachers in the Jacksonville North Pulaski School District. Stacy McAdoo has me speaking with some Teach Plus fellows, and then even out at the Air Base, there's an exceptional family members, what they call a roundup, to provide support and information with them. And so connecting with families just in different parts of our community, their teachers, and just making sure that they feel supported and seen and ready for this school year that is going to be here before we know it. It's coming really fast. I will be home tomorrow, but I leave Wednesday for Space Camp with the other teachers of the year, which I'm very excited about. The first night, have a parade of states, and they actually sent a video showing you can wear a costume or just something that represents your state. And Ms. Newton, you were in the video that they sent.
No.
It was your cohort.
Oh, no.
It was really exciting and fun to see. So it's really, this is just something that's been going on for years and years. But I did want to mention that, and I know Susanna has said this before, that it is good to be the Arkansas Teacher of the Year. That when I gather, whether it be virtually or in person with these other educators from across the states, our territories are represented as well. Sometimes I hear frustration about not being supported, whether it be by their state or by their district, and I haven't experienced that at all. So it's amazing to be supported and included and to have a voice. And this is a privilege that not a lot of Teachers of the Year get. So it's not lost on me, and I'm appreciative for it, and I thank you all. And if you'll go, I think it's the last one. I had to include this picture on here. This is from the new Inspiring Educators magazine that was at the summit earlier this week. They came to school, they called and wanted to take pictures, and they came to school 2 days before the end of the school year, which is always a crazy time of year. But this is one of the pictures they included, and it just made my heart happy. I just firmly believe that we as educators must choose joy every single day when working with our students. They deserve that from us, and they deserve no less. And if we have a rough day, that's okay, it's going to happen. We're allowed to struggle, but we're not allowed to have that struggle negatively impact the students. All of them deserve our best, no matter what district they're in, no matter what needs they have, they deserve our best. And so I am just so excited to share my passion and my joy throughout the state this year. I plan to stay busy, I plan to stay engaged, and hopefully when I'm back next month, I will have some Space Camp information to share with you and just how I intend to start the beginning of the school year. So I appreciate you guys, and I look forward to it.
Thank you. We all, I don't know if you can see, but we all have, well, I gave them to us this morning, so we all have them. So we're looking forward to reading and seeing. So congratulations on your first couple of weeks. I know you have plans for a busy year, but I'm going to tell you up front, you have no idea.
I know.
I can
Every
see the
day.
wheels spinning in this room, how they're going to put you to work already. So it's going to be a great year. Enjoy every minute. It'll be over before you know it. It passes in a hurry. So just enjoy every second of it and enjoy your time with your family too today.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
All right.
Bye-bye.
Okay, so we are to you, Commissioner King.
All right, thank you, Ms. Newton. So thank you, Ms. Song, for introducing the Inspiring Educators, because I was going to talk about that and make sure that everyone saw. You remember the assembly that where we were at your school and announced in our very clever way that you were Teacher of the Year, and how the kids held up the pictures of you, and the kids in the audience, they held up pictures. So now we all have something we can hold up with your picture on the front. But the concept of this was, this magazine was really to highlight teachers and to lift them up, because being a teacher is hard. The last 2 years has been incredibly harder beyond what anyone can imagine. And we felt like this would give an opportunity to boost spirits, to highlight positive stories of teachers. Look, Randy, we've got Be Pro, 2-page spread on Be Pro, Be Proud, to really bring together a lot of information, a lot of the activities that are going on in education in Arkansas. There's some celebrations in there, celebrations of our schools work in the PLC area. We are highlighting the finalists, last year's finalists for Teacher of the Year. It's a pretty incredible magazine, and I want to thank Arkansas Business Publishing Group for working on this and for the work Gina put into it, Stacy, Ivy, everyone. The whole team contributed to this, and I think the first publication run is 20,000, and it's going to be distributed across the state. We're going to be sending it to co-ops. We're going to be sending it to schools. But it hit on Monday, and was in the packets for all the teachers that attended the summit. So if you need more copies of that, please let us know. If you want to distribute any of these when you get home. We will make sure Mississippi County gets plenty, Randy, so please let us know if you need more copies. So for my report, I have several things today, but the first one we want to kick off with is on assessment. So the assessment team, Sherry Baird is here, Dr. Pride. We have some preliminary information to present to you today, and our assessment team has been hard at work getting this together for you. So I would ask them to come, and we'll turn it over to them now.
Good morning. Thank you, Secretary Key. Tiffany Pride, Assistant Commissioner of Learning Services. And as Secretary Key said, we're providing an update on assessment results for our students in Arkansas. Sherry Beard is here with me today. She's our program manager for assessment. And so we're going to weave in and out of the assessment to give you a different voice. And just frankly, she's really stronger at this than me. That's why she's program manager for assessment. Also, we have Dr. Earl on. She's our backup in case something too technical comes up. She can explain that for us, so we're grateful for her today. All right, so we're going to talk about K2, ACT Aspire, grade 11 ACT, and then Workkeys. All right, so just a little bit of background here for you today regarding our role in assessment. And it's in statute that ADE's role is to maintain a statewide assessment system that includes a variety of assessment measures for students grades K through 12. So with that in mind, today our goals are going to be to provide updates on state assessment results for 21-22. We'll show some comparison. You see there, we're going to compare assessment results from spring to spring to give you an idea around progress for our students. And we'll examine that data by content and grade level. We'll keep it at a high level for today. And then we'll celebrate the hard work of Arkansas educators and students that can be seen in this year's data results, because we know it's our teachers that are there every single day examining multiple pieces of data to get our students to reflect what it is that they know and can do in our state summative assessments. All right, so we'll start with K2 assessments first. All right, again, that's just sort of the code there to really let you know why we administer K2 assessments. It's a measurement of our students' skill and knowledge in foundational literacy and mathematics, those things that we know they need in order to be successful in third grade and up, to demonstrate that they are reading on grade level and can reflect what it is that they know. So we have 4 vendors. So districts were provided some flexibility in their choice of vendors from 4 approved vendors. So beginning in 2017-18 school year, each district selected the vendor that they thought best met their needs to assess their K2 students. So we have Curriculum Associates, iReady, iStation, I don't know if you say ISIP or ISIP, I've never, ISIP, thank you. NWA, which is Map Growth, and then Renaissance Star. So the way we're going to do this for each section, we're going to give you an overall assessment of data for that band or for that assessment, so that we'll look at the big picture, what are those trends that we see, and then we'll dig into each content area. For K2, we'll do math and literacy.
Just
Sure.
a second. So they have the list of 4 that they can choose from.
Yes,
So
ma'am.
are they all pretty much the same? I mean,
So they all measure literacy and mathematics, those foundational skills and knowledge. So they are different in how they assess because they're their own platform, but they all are assessing those early foundational literacy and math skills.
okay. And they would only select one.
They would only select one, yes,
Okay.
ma'am. All right, so again, we're going to provide a summary before each section. So for K2 assessments overall, what we see in the data in regards to trends is that no matter the vendor, the data reflects trends of growth from spring 21 to spring 22 in literacy and mathematics in grades K through 2. So that would be overall. And then literacy reflects some increases across K2, and we put some increases because literacy didn't take as great a fall during the pandemic as math did. It didn't dip as low. So our students held steady across the pandemic, and then we do still see some increases, which is good for us. This is very encouraging. I would like to credit our teachers around the science of reading. I think they're digging in and applying that in the classroom. And then our biggest gains are in mathematics across K2. And again, we saw the biggest dips there, and so we see that our students are resilient and they are headed toward recovery. All right. So the first vendor that we're set of assessments we're going to talk about is those schools who had their students to take the K2 assessment through Curriculum Associates. So before I jump in, again, we're going to do reading and then mathematics data for each of our 4 vendors. And I'm presenting them in alphabetical order, so there is no bearing on results by the vendor. It is by students, by vendor, it's just alphabetical order. So 48 districts and approximately 14% of our K2 students are taking the K2 assessment with Curriculum and Associates vendor, this vendor. The report scores are by percentage of students who scored on grade level or above in the spring 21 assessment compared to the spring 22 assessment. So as you can see, the gray boxes are national scores, and the shades of green are Arkansas scores. So in looking at this, based on the data you see here, our K students are scoring a few points higher in reading than the nation, and we see a slight increase from 21 to 22. And again, when I showed you the overall trend, we said there was some increase in literacy. Again, our students were holding steady across the pandemic. In first grade and second grade, the scores look a little bit differently. So I'd like to note that when you're assessing in kindergarten, you're assessing those early skills around do they know their letters, their sounds, really focusing in on helping them to establish letter sound correspondence so that they can really begin to read whole words, which would then go into sentences. So you'll see differences in the way that the data look, but keeping in mind that with the kindergarten, those assessments are looking at the very beginning of that progression of learning. All right, so you see in second grade, the scores are different. I just said that, but you do see that we still are making some slight increases across grade 1 and grade 2. And when you look at the comparison between 21 and 22, they're either holding steady or there is an increase. All right, 4 K2 assessments for curriculum associates in mathematics. When looking at math for curriculum and associates for math, generally we made higher gains, particularly at grades 1 and 2, from spring 21 to spring 22. In kindergarten, we are exceeding the national percentage, which speaks, I think, again to the work of our educators in the state. The same pattern holds true in grade 1, and we are nearly there in grade 2 to exceed the national percentages. But again, you'll see that there are increases from spring 21 to spring 22. So that was curriculum and associates, K2. Reading and math, and we're going to move on to iStation, which is another vendor. So 50 districts and approximately 17% of our K2 students are taking their early assessments through iStation. So with iStation, K and 1 students scoring at tier 1, they call it tier 1, which just means that they are ready and showing proficiency in those early skills. So you see that we have some modest gains, and so our students are doing better. One thing we did notice in the data is that we do see that in that red category, which means it's urgent intervention, we are seeing our students begin to drop from 21 to 22 in that urgent category. That category is decreasing, which means we're increasing the readiness of our students in reading. And so again, you see gains, slight gains in reading.
So tell me if I'm reading it right. The red is not at grade level, but the green is at grade level.
So all of the shades of green are, it indicates that our students are acquiring those skills and knowledge that they need in terms of readiness. So what we would have to do is take all of those greens and add them together to get the percentage there. So you see in kindergarten, you see in 2021, that 22%, 17%, and 11%, we would add those all together, and you would see the total of those students who are working towards the readiness. They're on track for readiness for those foundational skills. The yellow means they're at some risk, that we need to make sure that they're getting it before the school year ends, and then the red means it's urgent, we need to intervene.
Okay.
And so you'll see from 21 to 22, some slight decreases in the red, which means those interventions are working. We're moving students to that green, which is the point across the years. We want to get them there.
Okay.
Can I ask a question?
Yes.
Hello.
Okay. Yeah.
Go ahead,
Somebody
Mr. Sutton.
I was saying, somebody on?
I was asking,
Yeah.
what is the y-axis with the 1,000 up to 6,000? What is that? What does that indicate? Number of students or what?
Number of students. Number of students.
Okay.
All right. So in terms of math, for those students taking the math assessment with iStation, we see most of our students are having some great deal of success with mathematics. You see the green consumes a great more deal of the chart that you see here. So in kindergarten, what we've noted is that 74% of our students in 2021 were in the green. So it means they were at they were meeting proficiency, or they were on track for readiness, and in the same percentage, they held steady in 2022 at 74%. So basically, they held steady. Again, the decreases in the urgent shows us the movement and the progress across mathematics. First grade, they were at 66%. In 21, we saw a jump and increase to 75%. So again, a testament to our educators. In second grade, students held steady in green at 41%, but again, we see the decreases in the urgent category as we did in grades K through 1.
It doesn't look like to me that we've got a lot of movement. I might be looking at it wrong. Mr. Roller, you had something in the chat. What did you put in the chat there?
Oh, I was just saying it's a little confusing because you have the y-axis is actually the scale score. And on the x-axis, you see the number of students who were taking it. That's on the iStation.
Okay. All right.
Sorry about that.
That's okay.
Thank you,
And
Dr. Rowland.
Some of us are not seeing all, the entire screen because of the participants down below.
Dan, could
Dan,
you
can you
can
move
check that off?
The view off.
Yeah, there you go.
Thank you.
I didn't help on mine.
Can you say it again, Dr. Rowland? I think he wants you to repeat that.
Yeah, if you're looking at, for iStation, the scale score that students receive ranges from 0 up to, as you can see here, in the thousands above 5 and 6 and 7,000. And so the y-axis is their scaled score. And then, well, unless that's the number, the way they may have done this is the number of students that are fitting in there. I apologize. I may have it backwards. I'm so used to the actual data that I may be reading these charts wrong myself. So if I'm looking at the numbers.
I think that axis is the number of students, but we'll double check that to be sure. All right, so, I can't remember, did I do math? I think I did. Yeah. Moving to NWEA, which is another vendor. So 99 districts and approximately 52% of our K2 students take NWEA. And if you look at this data, the graph shows a comparison, again, between 21 and 22 for our students using MAP growth. This is showing our students that are on track to be ready. When you look at kindergarten, you see, again, when looking at the increases there, from 21 to 22, from spring to spring, we are seeing an increase. You see in first grade, there's a pretty big increase, and then in second grade, again, an increase. So our students are gaining as a group. Again, we're looking at trends at a high level today. So again, we're seeing those increases across reading. And then in mathematics, when comparing spring to spring, 21 to 22, again, you see the increases. You see there in first grade, the most significant increase. And then in second grade, they also showed a significant increase. And again, we said at the very beginning, across K2, math saw the biggest increases.
Can you go back to the K2 reading?
Yes, ma'am.
So we're saying that less than 30% of our kids are on track?
Of the percentage, so there are only 52% that are taking NWEA. Of the 52%. So again, we have the 4 vendors, and when thinking about the percentage of students that are taking it, that's what you would look at that percentage in respect to.
Dr. Pratt, there are some large districts that use NWEA.
Yes, large districts,
Yeah,
bigger numbers.
Little Rock uses NWEA.
Yeah, what
Some-
other big districts? Fayetteville, Springdale.
So that kind of, when you hear that term, that number 52%, just know that
The districts
that's
are.
a selection of a lot of those larger districts. So that's going to, have an influence on the data that you're seeing.
Yes, it's 99 of our districts, and 52, which is 52% of the K2 population. So each of them represent a percentage. So of that 52%, that would be those students that are on track for ready. All right, this is Renaissance, also called STAR, and we have 57 districts, which is about 17% of that K2 population of students that take Renaissance. And this one's,
Slow down a little bit. Say that again now.
so it's 57 districts, and it's about 17% of our K2 students. Okay, does that make sense in terms of the?
Yeah.
Okay. All right, so again, with reading, we see an increase of students on target and advance, and the way they're reporting is, again, urgent to advance. So in kindergarten, in the spring of 21, 55% of our students were on target or advanced, and then in 22, that increased to 62% of our students. And I think what we see here is there's even more obvious that there's greater movement in kindergarten from targeted to advanced. And so that's critical as well. As we think about those reading skills, they get more advanced. Toward the end of kindergarten, we know that our students are getting those advanced skills that they need to read.
Okay, let's stop here for just a second. There's a big difference between, when I'm looking at it, between Renaissance and NWEA. Is it the difference in the test? Is it the difference in the districts? Why is there such a big difference?
So do you want to explain that, Sherry?
Yeah, so part of it, so they're all online adaptive assessments, and they all measure very similar things. But the end counts, as far as like which district selected them, you know, NWEA has a significant lead as far as large districts, more urban districts. So that definitely could affect some of the data. So your Renaissance schools and NWEA has a big presence in Central Arkansas and Northwest Arkansas. Renaissance tends to be more in Southeast Arkansas and Northeast Arkansas, so sometimes schools' demographics could affect that, you know, the size of the school, that sort of thing, and even how they report out. So what you saw with NWEA, they did a linking study with ACT, so they are probably using a higher threshold, because when we looked at those readiness, the industry standard is 40% that a lot of the companies report out on. NWEA is reporting out on their linking study to ACT, which is probably closer to the 60th percentile.
And I would concur on that. The reason that it looks so different for NWEA is because that is predicting whether or not kids are on a trajectory to be ready by grade 3, which is very different from the other 3 sets of results that are looking at where are students right there in the grade level expectation. So it's a slightly different look at the students themselves.
Okay, go ahead, Dr. Moore.
Yeah, I have 2 questions. When a district chooses it, how long are they locked into that assessment?
You'll have to come to the microphone.
Sorry. These contracts are up in 2024, so they started in 2017,
Okay.
and they were in it for 3 years. In 2020, we added a 4th vendor, and then they had to make a 4-year commitment, which goes through 2024.
Okay, so they are, while they might be different, they're seeing their data within their district be the same from year to year.
Mm-hmm.
And looking at these,
Go ahead.
No, I've just noticed that it seems like the highest scores are in kindergarten. Do y'all have any sort of backstory around why that is and what's going on there?
No, part of it is that when you're assessing in kindergarten, they're looking at those discrete skills that they need, like do they know their letters, their sounds, do they have letter sound correspondence. When you start moving into 1st grade, the skills get more complex, and that they're reading whole words, they're reading sentences, they're manipulating sounds at a more advanced level. So it just gets increasingly more complex, and there are lots of variables why students would do better or not, but that it just gets increasingly more complex.
Well, that's great news to see a lot of students, you know, in kindergarten already in that sense.
Yes.
Want to see.
Yeah, I just wanted to give a little bit of background, because we have new board members too, about why we have 4 assessments in K2 and why it's so different. So the requirements on testing for K2 are state requirements, not federal. Okay, so that's one thing you need to know. When we chose the new K2 assessments, we actually did, we worked with the Office of Innovation and Education, Dr. Earl's group, and we surveyed K2 teachers throughout the state. And we asked the question, what do you want from your assessment? Dream big, think differently, what do you want? And they all said, we want actionable formative data. We want something we can use in our classroom to teach with. And so when we put out the proposal for a new assessment, we asked for an assessment that could test at the beginning of the year, middle of the year, and end of the year, so that teachers, and that was online so they could have immediate answers to how their students were performing. We had several different vendors who put up proposals, and what we did is we allowed those vendors to kind of have like a conference or fair, and we brought teachers in and they watched and got to listen to the different vendors, and they got to pick products that fit their curriculum and what worked for them. Many of these products have instructional pieces with it. Okay, so like your iStation or iReady products has products, iStation, sorry, two different companies, has products that a lot of school districts have purchased to supplement some of the formative assessment data as it's coming in. Okay, so this was really kind of an out-of-the-box innovative thing as a state. We knew there were going to be alignment issues between 4 different vendors and trying to figure out how they all marked with each other. But the primary purpose of the K-2 assessment system was to give information in the classroom to teachers. Okay, while they all test similar things, your end results, when you compare this one to this one, there's still 4 different assessments. They all have done some type of an alignment piece trying to track to 3rd grade and how you perform on that assessment. And they're all in different places on that. So I just wanted to give a little bit of background. And this was probably the first time that you've seen some of the data pieces like this. And I could see today there were lots of questions on this. But really this is more used for formative assessment in the classroom throughout the year. Okay?
Thank you, Stacy, for that background. All right, I think we ended with literacy. Did we do math? I think I lost track. But just generally, again, I think with math, we see increases, significant jumps, in terms of numeracy and whether or not our students are building that foundation they need to be mathematicians. So again, with this one, I will say in terms of kindergarten, the numeracy is built into their literacy assessment. So this vendor assesses numeracy into the literacy assessment. Okay. So there's not a distinct chart here for kindergarten, but that's the reason. So they would have to look at the numeracy aspects within the literacy assessment. For 1st grade, again, increases you see from spring of 21. We moved our students in terms of the targeted advance 66% in 21 to 70% in 22. And then again, we see a slight increase in 2nd grade. The data show 56% in 21 to 58% in 22. So again, overall in K2, our students are, as a group, showing trends of progress, which again, I think is attributed to the work that our schools are doing with those foundational skills. All right, so we're going to move to ACT Aspire grades 3 through 10, and Sherry Baird's going to walk you through that data.
Good morning. I'm Sherry Baird, Program Manager of Assessment. So before I get started, I would be remiss if I didn't take just a moment to honor 3 groups of special people. So one, I've got a few representatives from my assessment team that are over here. So I may be a little bit biased, but these are some of the most hardworking, dedicated people at DESE who are just doing an amazing job supporting our schools, supporting our districts with making sure that assessment happens, that it's secure, and that we get valid results. The second special group that I would like to represent is OIE, and of course we got Dr. Arola on the phone, and they have just done a fabulous job helping us crunching numbers, running our data, running quality checks on our data. And I kind of liken some of their approach to the parable of the lost sheep. Because while we've got thousands and thousands and thousands of tests that are running through and flowing through and everything looks good, I get an email from Denise that there is a set of twins somewhere in the state that has quirky data. You know, we need to figure this out. And we got it all sorted out, but we made sure that those 2 twins got a test score, that the school got credit, that the district got credit. So when you say all means all, we take that seriously in assessment as well. So it's great to have the 99, but their group's also going to go after that one lost sheep. And then, of course, our district test coordinators. They are truly our heroes in our assessment world. They are the ones that ensure that the districts make sure that their tests go off without a hitch. And so I want to make sure that they get credit.
Yes.
Okay. See if I can understand this clicker here. All right. So today we're going to be looking at some preliminary assessment data for Aspire. So I just want to make sure that we understand this as a caveat, a little disclaimer that this is preliminary. We're not going to see major changes, but we do apply some business rules to writing, and so I can tell you a little bit more about that if you have questions, but just know we do have business rules, and that helps schools to make sure they get higher participation rates. And then also, once schools get their preliminary data, so one, I want to make it clear that they do not have their data yet. Two, when will they get their data? They will get it by August 1st, okay? So when they do get their data, they'll have a chance to review it, and then there is kind of a corrections engine process. So that window opens on August 8th. And so they have the opportunity, if they miscoded a kid, maybe they put the wrong reason not tested, if they have some documentation as to why they didn't test them, they can upload that and that can be reviewed. So that could possibly help their participation rate as well. So it's not going to vary drastically, but for a small school, that can make a big difference. So here are some overall takeaways that I want to focus your attention to. So for grades 3 through 10, Arkansas scores have partially rebounded for 2022. So as Dr. Pride explained about math and reading, in 2021, our math declines were the greatest. That's where we're going to see the greatest rebounds in 2022. And we're also going to see, it's really important to look at trends. We're also going to see that in reading, our scores are rebounding at almost every grade level. So that's really great news. And overall, trends and data show positive progress towards recovery back to those pre-pandemic levels. All right, y'all ready to look at some graphs? So here we are, we have English. So this is a 3-year comparison. So the blue bar represents your 2019. That is your pre-pandemic. And of course, in 2020, we did not give the spring assessments that year due to COVID. So the two data points that we're going to focus on most today are 2021, which is represented in orange, and 2022, which is represented in gray. So overall, the English assessment data shows the smallest rebounds from 2019. However, grades 3, 8, 9, and 10 saw improvement compared to 2021. But historically, this is our highest test that we've had. And so I would imagine that we'll be continuing to see rebounds in those areas in the future years to come. So now we have a graph on math. Math scores experienced the sharpest declines in 2021 from the pre-pandemic scores. However, in 2022, we have the most significant rebounds across most grades. Scores from grades 3, 5, 6, 8, 9, and 10 reflect various levels of improvement in 2022 as compared to 2021. And then we have reading. So if you look at the gray bar on reading, which is 2022, we are showing growth in every grade except grade 8, which is just the most modest decline. So this is truly great news that we are making progress towards recovery. And once again, we did not see, what we see in 310 mirrors a lot of what we saw at K2. Reading didn't take as great a decline in 2021, but we are bringing that back up. And then our science information, science scores are less pronounced, but we did see some improvement at grades 4, 5, 6, 8, and 10, reflected improvement from the previous year.
I have a question. What do you think, or what is the cause of grade 3? I noticed that that one really stayed marginal and it wasn't a significant increase compared to the rest of them.
Just grade 3 in general?
Yes.
Well, for one reason, and of course we're just speculating, but this is their first year they take ACT Aspire. So, previous to that, they take one of those 4 vendors. So this is their first chance that they've been exposed to that particular assessment. So it could be laid out different, could look a little different. So that could have a bearing possibly for those 3rd graders on that assessment.
And Sherry, when they were in 2nd grade, there's a good chance they may not have had much exposure to those other K2 assessments. I mean, depending on, because that was a year of a lot of interruption, distance learning, and that sort of
Correct.
thing. So their test-taking skills may not have been developed very well in that component through 2nd grade. So this, not only the first time they would have taken this exam, it's the first time they may have taken any online like that. So, I mean, and that's the thing we have, and I'm sure Denise probably will talk about this, but when you look at these, I mean, we're talking about one year, 2020, you have to remember that there's a year that was just skipped. I mean, you're just missing. So that's important context for all of these comparisons.
Can I ask a question? I think I already know the answer, but I want to make sure. Now, Aspire is just once a year.
That is
while
correct.
While the K2 testing is...
It's an interim, so they take it a minimum of 3 times a year. Depending on the program they're on, they might take it more than that.
So when we're looking at PLCs, grades 3, 8, they're doing some other testing as well just to be able to track how the students are doing throughout the year, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
So yes, in 2020, in order to help support what you're saying, we offered the Ready for Learning assessments. So we took our K2 assessments, which, as Stacy mentioned, was a state law, and we offered districts the opportunity to sign up for that extension for grades 3 through 8. And so some of our districts, actually almost all of our districts, have taken advantage of that opportunity where they do get some interim data on one of those 4 vendors, if that's what they selected. Some of them are also doing something else, so that they can have some more data results coming back in real time that's actionable.
May I ask a question on that? Are they required to report any of those interim assessments to the state, or that's all district level kept?
I'm sorry, are they?
That data is kept at the district level. It's not reported to the state.
For the K2?
Their interim data, no, for 3-8 interim data.
It's loaded into Triand, so it's in part of our systems, but
they're not required to.
Yeah, we get a state data file, but it's since it's not a required assessment at 3-8, we just load it into Triand.
Okay.
That's what you're asking. All right. And just a word about writing. So writing, which is our 5th assessment that makes up the Aspire the ACT Aspire suite of assessments, we do not get state aggregate results for writing, but it is included. So what the company does is they take the writing assessment, the reading assessment, and the English assessment. They calculate that and combine it and come up with an ELA score. So we do not get state results for writing, but students and parents will get information on how their student did on writing because it will be included on the individual student reports that are sent home. We just don't get them at the state results.
Can I just also add that when it comes to writing, one of the biggest differences we saw this year, that was an improvement over our pandemic impacted 2021, is that in 2021, a lot of students did not complete scoreable writing entries, and we saw a huge improvement in that, especially at the lower grades, grades 3 and 4. We saw many more students in grades 3 and 4 who entered a scoreable writing. So to me, that means that they're back to more of a normal learning curve where they're getting all of the different pieces they need to be successful for the next grade level.
Thanks, Dr. Arola. So we're going to transition to a different look at our data. So I should have probably put this at the beginning, but the previous graphs you looked at, I just want to make sure what we were looking at was the percentile of students who had scored either ready or exceeding. And those were the first graphs we just went over. We've seen growth in many of those areas. This set of graphs that we're about to show is a different methodology of calculating the same data, but it's based on the adjusted mean score. And so there you might see some grades where, for instance, we saw a dip with students that didn't score ready or exceeding, but on these graphs we're going to see some growth in that very same grade and same content. Not many cases, but there are some, and so I just wanted to point that out because you will see a few examples of that. But what that means is that in this, what we're looking at here, it's a more nuanced look at growth. So we have students that grew, or a cohort of students that grew, but not enough to meet those cut scores of ready or exceeding. But we want to make sure that we're looking at our full growth picture. And so that's what this is. So I want to focus your eyes on that dark black line on the x-axis. That is our pre-pandemic baseline, which is at 0.0. And so the gray line represents 2021, and the blue line represents 2022. So the closer that we are getting back to 0, we are moving towards recovery. And so as we mentioned in English, and this graph looks very similar, that was kind of one of our areas where we had our least pronounced areas of growth, and you kind of see that here. We have definitely had some grades that held steady. We did have some slight growth, but that was kind of the general comments on that. But now let's look at math. Here you see on that blue line in 2022 some really big gains. And if you remember, one of our focuses is that we saw some of the most dramatic rebounds in math. And especially if you look at grades 5 and grade 6, you can see that they have made significant strides getting back to that pre-pandemic baseline. And then we have reading. So once again, on our previous graph, when we were looking at the cut scores of ready and exceeding, we had growth at almost every grade. 8 was the one exception. But now here, 8th grade, we do have growth because it probably became at the lower ends of, but those students maybe have not yet reached ready or exceeding, but we still have growth in 8th grade when you look at the whole population of the students. And so one of our really big celebrations is 9th grade. 9th grade reading, they have already reached full recovery back to the pre-pandemic baseline. So you can see quite a bit of growth in reading that's taken place. And several grades, you know, 5th grade's held steady, but then beyond that, growth across the board. So just kind of overall trends that we're seeing is, you know, kind of slow and steady wins the race, but they are definitely, their scores are moving back in the right direction. And I'm going to let Dr. Pride talk about grade 11 ACT.
Dr. Pride, before you jump to ACT grade 11, I just want to, and I think it probably goes without saying, but I'm going to say it anyway. Our goal is not to return to pre-pandemic levels. I mean, that is not what we're shooting for. That simply gives you a measuring stick to see, and the nation is doing the same thing. We're looking to see how we are doing to recover from those the last 2 years of significant interruptions. You know, we really feel like had we tested in 2020, we would have seen the impact of the work that we've been doing since 2016 in Rise and reading, especially in those earlier grades. Because you know, we started with kindergarten, we would have seen in 2020 the first group of students that would have had significant impact from Rise Arkansas. So our goal is to exceed that pre-pandemic baseline, you know, and the trends that we're looking at show us, and I'm going to be honest with you, when I first saw, and Dr. Pride had to coach me up a little bit, and I saw it, I was disappointed. But as she explained it, as Dr. Earl explained it, and as we talked more, I'm a little better, you know. I mean, I still want to see, I'm impatient when it comes to this, all right? And so I want to see us exceeding that pre-pandemic baseline as soon as possible. But I just want to say that from the department standpoint, you know, our goal is to exceed that, and our teams are working every day to support schools in doing that. But it's helpful to have people who understand where the rest of the nation is, helping us explain, and so the ACT team has been helping us with that. I think Denise has looked at some national data and some trends. So just know that the picture is not as gloomy as some may view it to be. And I think especially with reading, you know, we're seeing acceleration, or an accelerated pace of recovery, and that's because of foundational work that we've been doing with Rise. And we're going to keep growing and building on that.
That's right.
Started Rise in 2016, is that what you said?
I think we started the work in 2016, 2017 is when it launched.
Yes, just to add to what Secretary Key has said, with this, when I look at this, it's I'm encouraged that our students are resilient and that it's going to take us less time to recover, because our students are demonstrating each year that they are resilient. They're gaining those essential skills that they need to perform at grade level in the coming year. So you see so many of our grade levels are so close. Look at grade 6. Look at grade 7, 8, and 10. They are right there at that black line. So just the work that we're doing and the way that we're focused on accelerating learning versus that remediation, we're saying our kids are resilient. We're going to accelerate learning, make sure that we're teaching them at grade level while closing the gap. Our kids are going to, I'm encouraged that they're going to meet, like Secretary Key, exceed the pre-pandemic baseline. But in terms of recovery, it is good for us to look at the data as it is by grade level, but also looking at the recovery process. And we are there, and it's encouraging to see that. And I'm really, again, 9th grade, encouraged that our students are already there and that we're looking forward for them to exceed it in the coming years. All right, so grade 11 ACT. Again, this just gives you a little bit of background around that we measure college and career readiness. All of our Arkansas 11th graders enrolled in a public or charter school are provided with the opportunity to take the ACT. So we have a state model around administering the ACT in grade 11 in the spring of their junior year. All right, and thinking about big takeaways, our reading and science scores increased slightly from spring to spring of 21 to 22. Again, some of what we saw in K2 and 310. The state composite score for ACT increased by 1/10 of a point. And every time I see an increase, I like to celebrate that. So our students are showing an increase. Again, English held steady with no change. And we see here with ACT, the pattern around math looks differently. There is a slight decrease in math for grade 11. There are lots of reasons that we could, maybe, again, as Sherry said, speculate around why that happens. We do know that in terms of math, a lot of that is high-level math on there, and we may have students who are looking at other options in terms of the way that they're preparing for their career pathways and their selections around math courses. That might be, but again, this is just us making inferences about why there might be a difference in math just for this grade 11 ACT. Overall, we see increases in math. All right, so what you're looking at here is the participation, the number of students. Well, no, wait a minute, I have a slide. Did I go? I'm missing a slide here. So here, what you're seeing are the college and career readiness benchmarks. And what this shows us is really when students score a particular score, it shows that they have, if they hit those benchmarks for those subject areas, that it indicates a 50% chance of getting a B or higher, or a 75% chance of obtaining a C or higher in corresponding credit-bearing college courses when they get to college. So a little bit of predicting what might happen. We know there are other factors that may influence what students attain when they get to college, but this is just sort of a minimum that we look for students to score so that we know they have a better chance at being successful at college and career attempts in school. The STEM score, you see, is an average of math and science, so it's higher, which means they just have to put all of those things together in a more rigorous way. So that score is a bit more, that benchmark is a bit higher. And again, you see the little asterisk there. Grade 11 students do not participate in writing during our state administration. Writing is available on some of those national dates. And again, this is just for grade 11. It's not all of our students that are taking the ACT. All right, so there's my participation. It was backwards. I thought I had those. I probably moved that slide. But in terms of participation, it's good for us to look at participation. It lets us know that our students are looking toward college and career and progress in life in terms of what they want to do. But you see that the number of students that participated in the administration across 21 and 22 increased by 4%. There are lots of things that we do to support our students around taking the grade level ACT. We have our most recent campaign, which is Act Now, which gives them the opportunity to act now, to take the ACT, and to really begin to use some of their student agency to determine the score that they want to make and to take the steps to improve those scores. So you see, this is really just about the participation. This is another level of data that really helps us. And again, we're looking at trends. We see it's not quite to that pre-pandemic, but we are working, I would say, with our ecosystem of support from our schools to our state to our regions to make sure that we are getting those numbers, exceeding those numbers, as our secretary said before. All right, in terms of the average scale score, this is what this slide is showing. My notes here. It's important to remember that when we're looking at this, that the results comprise a portion of the total ACT test results. So it doesn't include all of our students, it's just grade 11. So we see here that our students are pretty much holding steady. We see a slight increase if you look in each area. So look at English, they are holding steady. We saw that trend in all of our data. Math, a slight dip again. Grade 11 ACT math did not follow the pattern of our other assessments. A slight dip though, it's not dramatic. And then when you look at reading, there's a slight increase in science, and then in the composite score, again, I mentioned earlier, that's 1/10 of a point in our composite. So increases, they're slight. Our students are holding steady.
So let me go back in time just a little bit. The 20 test would have been given in February before the pandemic started, if I'm
Yes.
remembering right.
Yes.
And so the 21 would have been after the pandemic.
Yes.
And the 20 test was interrupted, so the window wasn't completed. And so some students took the test in the fall of 2020. So a small portion of students, so this is the combination of the students who were able to take it before the 2020 shutdown, and then the students who took it in the fall of 2020 that weren't able to take it in February or March of 2020. So those are combined.
So there were 2 dates then in that year then. Okay. All right.
All right, so this is our percent of students meeting readiness. You see there that the percent of students at or above the ACT was 1% lower for English. There was no change for math. We did see an increase of 2 percentage points for reading and science, and an increase of 1% for those students meeting all of the readiness benchmark in all 4 areas. Again, following the pattern with the exception of math. All right, we'll move to Workkeys. Sure.
So the Workkeys Assessment is our newest assessment to our assessment system. This is the very first year that we have implemented that, done training, and had schools administer this assessment. And so this was due as a response to Act 319 of 2021. One of the factors that really sets Workkeys apart is it gives students the opportunity in grades 10, 11, and 12 to earn a National Readiness Certificate. And so this is a portable certificate that students, when they graduate from high school, whether they're going to college, whether they're going to a VOTEC school, whether they're going straight into the workforce, they have the opportunity to earn the certificate that is portable, that doesn't expire, and they can take with them. In some cases, it might help them land a job interview. In some cases, it might help them start at a higher salary than some other counterparts based on if they have a certificate and what level they have. So this really is a test that is providing opportunities and opening doors for our students. I don't know the answer to that question, but I can find out for you. I know we're not the only one, but I want to say Louisiana. Actually, Trinity might know.
There's a handful, I know.
Can you come to the
Oh.
come to the microphone, please?
Yeah. I cannot give you a specific number.
Say your name.
Oh, okay. I'm Trinity Jones. I am the Workkeys Program Advisor for the state. And I can tell you that there are a couple of our surrounding states that implement Workkeys. Actually, I know Mississippi and Louisiana oftentimes poach a lot of our high school students, I've been told, that have these certificates. I know there's some northern states that offer state contract-wise, like testing all of their high schools. I don't have a specific number, but I know that it's very up and coming.
Okay, good. I'm glad we're on top of it. Thank you.
All right, so just a few things to focus on. That yes, this was the first administration as part of the DESE state contract, where every school has to offer this to every student at some point between grades 10 through 12. And in our first year, we had over 6,000 students that earned a National Career Readiness Certificate. So because this is our first year, we don't have any fancy graphs prepared since there's this is kind of baseline data, but we do want to look at some of the numbers with you. So in the fall, and of course, just think back, this was just introduced. So we started, schools heard about this assessment for the first time in August, and they didn't know it was coming. And so we did a lot of training to get them ready if they were wanting to test in the fall window. So we did have 5,169 tests administered. So that doesn't necessarily correlate to students because the students have to take 3 assessments that make up the Workkeys suite. And then in spring, we really ramped up and we had 19,000 individual tests administered. And then another great statistic is that 75% of those students that took the test did earn a certificate.
You said that they can take it anywhere in grades 10, 11, or 12. Can they take it more than once?
Not at present.
So
Well, the state will only pay for it one time, but
Okay.
a school can choose to have a local contract with ACT if they want to give that student more testing opportunities.
Okay,
I'm sorry.
go ahead.
Is it it's not required.
It's
Yet,
required
or-
that they offer it to the students.
Okay, so that's why it's only 60% of schools tested.
Yeah.
And
And we're
that's-
hoping to get those numbers up
So
in
it
the
was
future.
the law that said that it's required to be offered. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I will just add, the data indicate that kids are doing multiple attempts because we are seeing kids who have taken the test more than once and earning a higher level, taking it more than once to earn that higher level, just like with our ACT.
So I just did want to reiterate that they can decide to give this across 10 through 12, grades 10 through 12. And so again, with the newness of this, there's lots of flexibility on them helping their students get ready for it. So some things that we've done to support this, and some schools may just be waiting to make sure their students are ready for the assessment, is that we have really supported them around the courses that students take that prepare them for this Workkeys assessment. So schools, there's a lot of flexibility with this, and so some of them probably are gearing up to make sure their students are ready so that when they take it, they are going to score in one of those categories for a readiness certificate. So some of that, again, this is a baseline year and they still have time for their students to take this assessment.
So this is not like the ACT where a student can sign up through ACT and go take it on a different campus. This has to be through the local district. Okay.
Ross White, Director for the Division of Career Technical Education. So our state for years has offered it through workforce services. So a student, an individual can decide they want to go to a workforce center and go take it.
Okay.
So our students do have other opportunities, but obviously with our contract with the state is we gave them one
Right.
opportunity to take it. But there are opportunities after they graduate that they could go take it at additional places, or a student while enrolled in high school could go to their workforce center and through an agreement, I mean, not an agreement, but through working with them, could take it there as well.
Okay.
So just for that clarity piece, that it can be taken other times.
I can
Little
see where
different
they're-
setup than the ACT,
Right.
but it can be taken, and obviously with workforce services, their contract provides it for the residents of the state of Arkansas to be able to gain that credential as well.
I can see where there would be value for a student having these certificates, and as more and more get certificates, you know, there may be students that want to either get a certificate or increase their level, and wanting to see if there would be the opportunity for them to be able to do that.
And that's been a part of a lot of the conversation we had on the front side with schools, and then we'll continue with our trainings and different pieces. Is if a student ends up not being happy like with their bronze status, and maybe as they become they graduate, or then they're at senior year and maybe they took it as a junior and they realize, man, I would really like to see that opportunity, is being able to connect them with their workforce centers and being able to identify this is an opportunity. You can still use the curriculum we have, that Workkeys curriculum, to help you prepare for it, but for that additional assessment beyond the one that's provided, you could go there and be able to move that certification.
Okay, good, thank you.
So one of the supports that we have in place when we were talking about flexibility and supporting our schools is that as part of the state contract, we are also including the Workkeys curriculum piece. And so that this last year was available for students grades 10 through 12, and this year we're opening it up to 9th grade students. So even though our 9th grade students won't be taking the test, they will have the option to be in that curriculum and preparation. So we're also helping. That's another way that we're going to be building the momentum of Workkeys so that more students are not only prepared, but that will take that test. I'm not sure that we looked at the breakdown of the total certificates earned. So we mentioned the number of over 6,000, but then you can see the breakdown: platinum, which is the highest certificate that can be earned, and then we had over 726 of those, gold, silver, and bronze. And then let's look at where those certificates basically are located by state. So I know our state does not look this squatty, so my apologies for the map. It when it transferred over from PowerPoint, it kind of lost its shape a little bit. But so you can see in Region 1, which is our northwest corner, we have both the highest number of certificates earned and the highest number of test takers, and platinum. So they had 343 platinum earned in Northwest Arkansas, which was the highest of the regions. And then, of course, you can see in Region 2, their numbers of platinum, gold, silver, and bronze, and then the number of students tested. And then, of course, Central Arkansas, Southwest, and Southeast, if you're curious as to what the breakdown of the state looks like. Then we'll talk just a moment about work-ready communities. So this particular assessment and the certificate that these students earn is really a partnership between schools and the business community, the industry. And so there is a lot of work being done with trying to bring businesses on board, because it's a cyclical effect. Because when these students earn this certificate, the more businesses that recognize that certificate and honor that certificate will help incentivize more students that has meaning, that they'll want to, you know, do their best, make sure they take it, you know, as Ross mentioned, maybe even try to improve a former designation, move up their bronze level to something higher. So there is a lot of work being done with chambers of commerce across the state, economic development, elected officials, business and industry, even the governor's office, to get everybody working together as a collective effort. And this is kind of one piece of that as we're strengthening this program. And then this map, ACT has what's called their work-ready communities. And so the khaki, orangey brown, whatever color that is, those are ones that are our certified communities. And so they have done, they have gone through the full process with ACT to earn what's called certification. And so the ones that are in the dark blue that are labeled a participating community, they have started the process, and they are on their way to becoming certified. They're not quite there yet, but they've maybe gone through the boot camp, and there's quite a few things that you have to do to get certified, but they're working on that. Since we've started this program in August, Drew County, Jefferson, and Scott have become certified, so we're making headway there. Nevada County has begun participating in the work-ready communities. And Johnson, Little Rock, and Montgomery counties have done the boot camp part, which is the very first initial step to become a work-ready community. So just in the last year, we're seeing some movement with the business industry, the counties, making headway with their business industry in accepting this program.
May I ask a question with that?
Yeah.
Who in the community is it usually spearheading this?
So it is a combination. Are you talking about who spearheads the Work Ready community?
Yes. Like who's in charge of reaching that certification?
Ross might be able to answer that question better than I can.
Well, I think it's great that we've had so many that have become certified, but I noticed that even in Southeast and Northeast, they didn't have all their schools participating.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So
The most important piece there is obviously they need assessments. They need scores from the CRC to be able to even start having the conversation with Workkeys. So that's been a lot of our holdups. You'll notice the east side of the state, we already have a lot of certified communities because they've been doing this for years. They've been doing the Workkeys and the CRC in their schools, and so that's why they're already there. Because prior to this legislation, it was a part of their communities coming together to identify that. You see a lot of chamber, you see a lot of economic development, you'll see WIOA boards. So I'll pick on Southwest for just a second as an example. So a slide or two back, she had the percentages of people actually participating. And you notice the highest one is Region 4, which is Southwest at 70%. Because right now in Southwest Arkansas, prior to this legislation being passed, we're doing a lot of work around this. And so SADA, which stands for the Southwest Arkansas Development Alliance, and then their Southwest Arkansas Regional and Development Board have been working with the schools. How do we create more workforce? And so that's why you see a bigger percentage there, because they've been pushing it really hard, and their schools have business and industry that can come and talk to their students and say, we value this is important. And so you're seeing that collective whole of anybody that's really involved in economic development as a part of those conversations. And then the school is kind of the feeder to go, we'll help you get your assessments up, because they have a baseline that they can't even start having the conversations about becoming a certified community if they don't have a set number of assessments being earned, because they can't really show, well, we have this percentage of workforce that's ready, this percentage that's not. And so that's where really we come in with this, is I think it's a really important piece, because we're helping get those assessment numbers there, no problem. Now they have them, and so the community can have that conversation to go, do we want to do this? Obviously, education is an integral part of any community, but we're just a piece of that puzzle in the Workkeys, or the Work Ready community piece, because it involves so many other stakeholders that are involved in all of that process. But I do want to brag on Southwest because they have really been very active in it, and much of that activity is well beyond the general classroom teacher, working that. It's the superintendent, administrators, a lot of our CTE coordinators have been working really hard across the state to engage business and industry in the conversation. And we hope to see that map have more and more color on it each day as we get more assessments out there and a better understanding, especially on the western side of our state, of what it is. And I'll steal your pen, I'm sorry. Any other questions on that? Did that answer your question for the most part?
thank you.
Thank you, Ross.
And just know the Work Ready Community Program is through Commerce and Department of Workforce Services, isn't that right? Yeah. So, it's been going for quite some time, and our connection here, as Ross said, has been limited, but now it's much broader because of the latest legislation. And I think this is probably one of our big success stories that we can point to for this year in just the results that Sherry's presented. And we believe that's going to grow. I mean, there's some schools that didn't participate. We're working with them to find out what the barriers are, but just to make sure that there will be more students that have the opportunity this coming year, and these numbers should grow.
Mm-hmm. And I want to share, of course, this was actually earlier this week, but we have had a great success story between the collaboration of DESE and the Division of Career and Technical Education. So Trinity Jones and Mary Beck have been working together across divisions under the umbrella of ADE to do a lot of training on Workkeys. And at the ADE summit that we had earlier this week, they held a session to promote Workkeys. It was very well attended, and they also co-hosted 2 districts that were part of a panel, and it was Rivercrest and Greenbrier. So there were 2, we had 2 representatives from those districts that helped share their stories of the success that they've had with Workkeys, how they've implemented it, and we had a great turnout. Lots of questions were asked, and this is, we want to continue moving forward with our training, supporting our schools, so that we do continue to grow this program. And with that, I'm going to let Dr. Pride wrap us up.
So, deep breath after all that, right? So this is just sort of a big, like sort of the summary we have here at the end. Just what are our takeaways right now? Of course, again, we're going to continue to look at the data and discover new things about it. But again, our data are showing increases in reading and mathematics across all assessments. For grades 3 through 11, scores have partially rebounded for 2022. Again, we see the most pronounced rebound toward recovery for math and the least for English. Though we do know there is an exception in our pattern around grade 11 ACT. And us knowing that, we're going to continue to follow up and work with our schools regarding that. And again, our reading scores, those declines were not as severe initially because of, I've credited towards our RISE initiative, if I can take that leeway, that our schools have always been focused on that. So we saw the least severe declines there, but we still saw increases, which is to a credit to our educators. Again, grade 9 has recovered to pre-pandemic baseline. Grade 6 is within 1 percentile of recovery of that baseline when we're looking from the framework of trends around recovery. And then grades 7, 8, and 10 are within 2. So we have a lot of things that are positive in our data. Again, grade 5 held steady. And when you have a pandemic as traumatic as we've had, this is encouraging because we see in terms of our data from spring to spring increases, and then we also see positive progress toward recovery. And so this is our takeaways for what we know right now that's present in our data.
Thank you. Dr. Earl, are you still on?
Yes, I'm still here.
They said that you had done some comparison nationally. How are we doing compared to other states around us?
Well, and we haven't gotten a lot of other results that have been published yet. So a lot of the information that we're hearing as we attend various events or see things that are published. And we know, that we were one of those states that had the most comparable data because we actually had, at the state level, because we actually tested 97% of our students in 2021. And this year our numbers are up, and so we're getting close to preliminary, looking to see, we'll know here in the next 2 weeks what our preliminary percent tested is, but we're anticipating it'll be at least higher than it was last year. And so again, we'll be more comparable. I think when we look at our data, one of the things that we have to be really mindful of is that if we look at what we could learn from the 2021 data, we saw students who were missing big essential components of their current grade level knowledge and understanding and skills that they were going to need to be successful as they progressed up the grades. And what we're seeing in 2022 is that even though the overall numbers didn't jump as much as we would all have liked, we've filled in a lot of very important gaps compared to where we could have been. So if I think about our 5th grade math students, they had some big chunks that were missing, but our data are showing that not only have they filled in those big chunks, but they've also been able to have more students move back into that ready or exceeding piece. We've moved a lot of kids out of our lowest levels of performance, and we've moved students from ready to exceeding. And I don't know if y'all remember, but last year we lost a lot of our highest performing students out of that highest performance level. And so if you think about the down the line implications, what we're seeing in 2022 is really hopeful for all of these students, the way that they've been impacted. We're recouping in areas that could be quite traumatic if we didn't. While we're also able to increase at grade level, we're seeing that these kids are filling in some of those really important gaps. And so we'll have a better sense of our national comparison as more states formally put their data forward and also give us their comparative data. But honestly, as I'm looking at some of the deeper, more nuanced aspects of the data, like the percentage of kids in need of support, which is an area that generally it's a difficult area to move kids. The fact that we're moving a percentage out is really provides a lot of optimism for the future. The fact that students are moving back into those more exceeding ranges, again, particularly in mathematics, that means that we will continue to have a distribution that has the skills to do it more, in the next grade level. So I see it as a multi-year recovery, just because, we all, how it is when you're learning and you're catching up and you're behind, and you have so much cognitive space and energy. And we've done a lot in 2022, and we still have a lot to go. But the things that we've done are in areas in particular where if we didn't see what we're seeing right now, we would be very concerned for the future. And yet what we're seeing is this recovery that really supports that we're going to be back on track and exceeding where we were before. I think the other thing I will add, having been a teacher, is that what it takes to do this, we have some incredible lessons learned about accelerating. Pre-pandemic, when we would see students who were in these lower levels, we would think about remediation more than we would think about acceleration. But now we have proof of concept about what acceleration can do for our kids. And I think that that's a really important strategy that we could take hold of to accomplish what the Secretary Key was mentioning earlier, that we're not content with pre-pandemic baseline. We really want to shoot beyond that. And we've learned some very important concepts in the interim that if we take those and apply them to the future, we're really going to be able to go to those places that we're envisioning. But we'll have more data, as you know, as it settles in. These are the first flush. And I would say really great news to begin with.
Okay, thank you. That perspective was helpful and comforting, I think. Any board members have a question or a comment? Okay.
Dr. Pride, do we know how many districts are doing this interim testing? Is there any way to know?
In terms of the 3.8 that we offered beyond the required assessments, it's a great percentage. About 99%, very few of them that wouldn't, and most of them that didn't may have had something else that they were using in terms of interims. Okay. But we would say, majority of our districts, almost all of them, took advantage of the 3.8 opportunity.
Yes, because what we learned about PLCs and them knowing where the students are and how to work with each individual student, that is essential. So,
yes, the multiple pieces of data.
It's good to hear that we've got that high percentage.
Yes, ma'am.
Anyone else? Thank you, ladies, and thank you to your team for gathering this data. And I want to take the opportunity, I know teachers are not on here, but I still want to take the opportunity to thank them for their hard work, for the progress that we're seeing with students and the teams that are working in districts to ensure that students are progressing and catching up at the same time. So we appreciate all of their hard work.
The next part of my report is just briefly a question that we get a lot regarding calendar options. And as you know, there have been a lot of districts that have been exploring and adopting different calendar options. That has been a topic in the General Assembly as well. So attached to the agenda is a one-pager that outlines the 4 different calendar options that we have, and the state of Arkansas provides the Arkansas Code citation for those. We obviously the traditional school calendar, districts could adopt an alternate school calendar. 4-day weeks are growing, they are growing in popularity. I will say that at the department we are concerned, and we will be watching that closely because we're concerned about the impact that can have on students with respect to student achievement, student growth academically. So we don't have enough data at this point and enough history to really give you an assessment of that, but that is something we'll be looking at. And districts can also adopt what we call a 12-month or year-round school calendar. That would be, Lee County would be an example where they're starting July 25th. I think Marion is another, maybe the largest district that has adopted that type of calendar. So those are, and then the screenshot from the dashboard is shown here, and we, that has, our team put that together, so it's easily accessible, and can show you from year to year what districts have opted for. And as you see right now, we have 29 districts that have adopted a 4-day week. So any questions on that? That's just a reference item that you can get to quickly if you need it. All right.
I echo those same concerns and would love to see whether the department or someone outside the department do some sort of study in the next 2 years looking at the effectiveness of these different types of calendars so they can make informed decisions moving forward.
So we actually are going to start that research now. We've got Dr. Arola is working with us, as well as we're reaching out to the Office of Education Policy to assist with some of the qualitative research around it. So the research will establish baseline data for those schools that are participating with different kinds of calendar options, and then we'll have qualitative pieces where we would like for them to go ahead and start interviews with communities that have chosen different calendars, and just ascertain everything from, what were the decisions that went into changing your calendar, and what was the feedback from the parents and the community, and then be able to follow that over the next few years. So we wanted to get the research started now, and that's what we're planning to do.
That's great. Thank you all for that.
We'll say that one of the biggest points of concern with districts adopting the 4-day week has been the impact on districts that have ABC programs, that are district-sponsored ABC programs. Those, we have said as a department that 4-day week is not, that they have to have a certain number of days of service for pre-K. So shifting the number of hours in a day to accommodate a 4-day schedule is not something that we have said is appropriate. I mean, and again, that may be something that you hear more about. It may get some attention during the legislative session, but as of right now, the ABC program is set for a certain number of days within the year, and we have determined that the law does not allow, or rules do not allow us to make the same type of adjustments for pre-K that have been made for K-12. Okay. Then last item is actually a group of 4 items, and Stacy is going to come and present our reports for the districts under level 5.
Let me see if the board needs a quick break before we get about a 5-minute break and then we'll start that. Yeah, okay. Because we've been here a couple of hours, so let's give them about a 5-minute break.
Okay.
We'll be back at Ready? Dan is ready, so we're ready. All right.
You got your listening ear on? All right. Good morning. Good morning. So these are the quarterly reports for districts with state authority. I don't have presentations on each of the districts today. We're just going to hit the highlights of the reports. But I do want to jump down to the very last report for Little Rock, because I do think this is a moment of silence and celebration, and this is the last required quarterly report that Little Rock School District has to submit to the State Board of Education. Commissioner
Wait,
Key,
I hear yells over at the administration building.
Commissioner Key and we had this deal that Mike Poore would show up, and I said he would, and Commissioner said, no, I don't think so, so I owe Commissioner lunch now.
Yeah.
I keep waiting for Mike to walk in the door.
Yeah.
But this is their last quarterly report. Got to meet with Dr. Wright, their new superintendent. Dr. Pfeffer and Commissioner and I all met with him. Just really excited about the future for Little Rock School District and things that they have planned and things that they're doing and the momentum that they have. It's taken a long time to get to that point, but we celebrate their success and look forward to the good things that Dr. Wright and his team are going to do within the district. Commissioner, do you have any comments about that, or good?
Congratulations. Congratulations, that's awesome.
Absolutely, absolutely. The next one, so that jumps us back up to Earl School District. So these reports run from April to June. Okay, so it was kind of the last end part of school. So we finished school, rolled right into summer school, credit recovery, those types of things. Some big pieces that I think I want to lift up for the district that's a concern is staffing. We have 31% of the certified staff at the district has left for various reasons. But the elementary has really lost several of their licensed staff, and that's a concern. We're seeing it's harder and harder to fill positions with licensed teachers. It's traditionally been more difficult in secondary and specific courses. We haven't seen it so much in elementary, but you are really starting to see it in elementary now, and that is definitely an impact for Earl. And so, you know, working with them, one of the things that is an obstacle for Earl is they are just now getting to the minimum teacher salary schedule for next year at $36,000. Okay, so that is the state required where they had to be starting school year. So, you know, they lose teachers to their surrounding districts because they can pay more, because they are so low. So again, those are just things that we're working with them on. You know, of course, the district was placed under state authority due to fiscal distress. And so going into next school year, that will be their 5th year under fiscal distress. And it goes all the way through the school year at the end. So we'll be having more discussions about Earl and things to watch. But this summer, things we're really looking for as school is starting is their enrollment numbers. There were about 417 students. And so we do not want to see that number drop. We were very concerned with their kindergarten enrollment numbers. They did not have a very large kindergarten enrollment when they did enrollment. So again, we're just going to have to watch that and actually see who shows up.
How many did they graduate?
Oh goodness, I'd have to go back and look. Let me look that specific number up for you. I don't have it off the top of my head.
I mean, I thought, you know, if they got a low kindergarten enrollment and they had a large graduation.
Mr. Hoy, do you know how many students graduated from Earl?
52.
52. Okay. And then what was their kindergarten enrollment? Do you know?
Seems like it was around 17.
Yeah.
Around 17.
So 17 kindergartners enrolled, graduated 52. So you can see where our concern is.
Yeah.
And even just the number of teachers. We were at a position with Earl where you really had to have 2 teachers per grade level in the elementary, and we're seeing some of our grade levels is down to 1, and then another grade level might have 2. So there are definitely some big concerns around that. The concern of staffing and having access to certified teachers as students move through. The quality of education from a student who has only had virtual teachers from 7th grade all the way to graduation in certain subjects. So there are some pieces there that we're really trying to pay attention to.
Can you remind us, do they have an Act 1240 waiver for licensed teachers?
They do. No, I do not believe they do. Okay. Lori, will you look that up? Ivy, do you know off the top of your head? Yeah, I don't think they do either.
How many vacancies do they have right now?
Mr. Hoy, do you know how many vacancies they have? You're on mute. You're on mute.
I'm sorry. I believe we have around 7 vacancies right now, and some of those vacancies include music and things like that. So not so much the core, with the exception of the elementary campus and special education.
Any other questions about Earl? One thing I'd like to, yesterday, Dr. Moore asked me about where the district superintendent's going to be here. And so what I would like to suggest is over the next couple of months, bring one district in at a time to do like their annual report that they would do, but they would do that for the board as well. So bring one in next month, the following, and do that over the next 3 months. Would y'all like that?
Yeah, that
Okay.
would be great.
We'll make sure and do that.
One more question on Earl. I know you said that we were going into the 5th year of Earl being in fiscal distress. I kind of have an idea on when it's not fiscal distress, but what is the process when we reach that year 5 for one that's on fiscal distress?
It's very similar. I mean,
Is
they
it?
have a fiscal distress plan. They're working through it. You know, the ongoing challenges to the fiscal integrity of a district, though, is enrollment. And when you see year after year declines in enrollment, you know, that's a concern for the department. So that's one of the things that we have. Dr. Eric Saunders has returned to our team as part of OCSS, and you know, because of his background expertise in school finance, that's something he's going to spend a lot of time looking at as we get ready to begin this school year and get ready to bring you recommendations for the future. That's going to be a big part of what he does.
Okay, good.
All right, so that jumps us to Lee County. So earlier you guys got to meet our new superintendent. So if you did not know, Willie Murdoch is now the new director at the Educational Cooperative in the region. And so we're super excited for her. We're very excited for Michael Stone coming in, and we think that his background and expertise will continue to lead the district. I've told you that for Lee County, it's kind of like all the pieces have kind of come together there as far as groups working together to move things along. Great collaboration between us, the district, and Solution Trees coaches that are there on site. Really now trying to loop in and have a stronger relationship with the Educational Cooperative and the support that they provide. So those are pieces that are helping us move. You know, so we're pleased with the progress there. We're pleased with the work that they're doing. They do start school July 25th, so they had adjusted their schedule. So their summer program was very, very short. But they did do a really robust, using their ESSER funds, after-school program that went pretty late during the school year, and they will continue that on as the new school year starts. They did come to Little Rock not long ago and use their 1003 dollars, which they received in addition for academic support and professional development for their teachers, and they put on a kind of like a mini conference for school improvement for their teachers, and it was optional for their teachers to come or not. Their teachers did get a stipend. They did bring in like Sharon Kramers, who is their coach through Solution Tree for Professional Learning Communities. They brought in their other coaches from the organization that provided some really hands-on, up-close and personal, robust professional development for 3 days here. And it was good for the teachers because they were able to get out of their community, they were able to come into Little Rock, and it felt like more of like a conference piece for them. But it was a choice. And I think all but 2 teachers came.
Wow.
And so it was a good couple of days. It was good for the principals. Both of our principals there are relatively young. We just finished Dr. Farr's first year as a full year principal, did a great job. He's moving into his 2nd year. And so we just continue to expect great things from them.
How is enrollment there?
Enrollment there, it seems to be steady.
Okay.
They had lost some with the COVID numbers, but I believe it's bounced back up. But I will double check on that. Their numbers are much higher though.
Hey, Stacy,
Yes.
what year are they in level 5?
3, I think.
I think there's 3.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They're in their third year.
Well, so let me think this through. So they had a standards for accreditation violation, which is why they were put under state authority, so that would have been 1. So underneath Willie came in and asked for level 5 support, so that's really when the timeline started. So they may only be in this may be the start of their third year.
So this says May 2019.
For standards of accreditation violation or level 5.
I think so.
All right, thank you.
Yeah, they were originally put in for standards for accreditation violation, and then then Willie came in and asked for level 5 support. So, anything else with Lee?
I was going to ask, I know there was a large number of students doing virtual during the year of COVID. Do they have a
So they do not have, so they, actually that was, they had put in for a request for some digital learning waivers, and we actually denied those because they did not have students participating in digital learning. They were kind of putting it in place for in case of we needed it, but we got to the point where they really needed to have their students on campus. And that was hard for some in the community, but we felt like it was best for those in the community. And so they really have brought their kids back on campus.
But do they use Virtual Arkansas for supplemental courses?
Yes. In some areas they do.
Do we know what percentage, or do you know about how many courses at the high school level?
I can find that out for you. I do not know that. And Sheila would know it, but she's actually doing the facilities walk with Mr. Moore, and so that's why they're not on. Or Mr. Stone, sorry.
Staff for next year?
They are, I think we may have 1 to 2 vacancies. They're to the point where they're pretty fully staffed, and they have been very organized. I think Brent Miller, who's a part of our team, has really worked closely with them on their retention recruitment piece. They have actually hired staff that some of their districts we talked about yesterday not taking opportunities to get people. They snatched people up pretty quickly. They've done a great job stacking their bonuses and their pieces like that where they can use some of their federal funds. So they've done a pretty good job of trying to attract people there. It's still a struggle, okay? It's still a struggle. Housing in the area is a big problem. We brought students in from colleges around the state to visit the school district, trying to say, hey, come to our community. And of all the ones we brought in, we did not capture any of those kids. They have brought in teachers from the Philippines into their district to teach. So again, they're trying to go out there and find folks.
I know one of the things that's been a problem in the past is you get teachers in and you train them and then they go somewhere else. Is the retention at Lee County getting better? Or
It is getting better, but they do have unlicensed teachers in classrooms. So I don't want to say that they're fully staffed and give the impression that they're fully licensed teachers. That is not the case. We have a lot of unlicensed teachers in those classrooms that we're providing lots and lots of direct support to.
Are they on a pathway to?
Yes,
Okay.
that's our goal, is to have every one of those people on a pathway. And that is one of the things with all of our districts. If they did have some type of 1240 waiver, we have tried to really tighten that process up and make sure that they're on a timeline to complete it.
Okay.
Yeah, according to the report, looked like they did an incredible job with the recruiting and hiring. The human capital, according to the report, it says like 25 teachers were hired. I'd be really interested in seeing that model. I mean, that was pretty phenomenal.
And again, Dr. Brent Miller, who works as part of our team, has worked directly with them on that. Our actual Carly Saraceni, she was here yesterday. Today. Her team has been out there. If you'll remember, last year in May, our team went out there and did a complete staffing audit with them. And we, what were we calling that? We had a name for it.
Project Lee County.
It was just Project Lee County?
Yeah,
it was really about staffing, retention, recruitment, and going out there. And where we created these sheets where we were showing how you could stack your bonuses and how you could do your pay. So we have an entire ADE team out at Lee County in the spring trying to facilitate this, and then Dr. Miller from my team led that work. And I give Ms. Murdoch credit because Ms. Murdoch saw how it was working so well, and she approached Brent, again, ADE team, and offered him a contract to work just for Lee County to solely focus on retention and recruitment. They didn't have someone. And so now he is going to now be working out there full time and hopefully completely, they're thinking about some innovative things like the housing and what you could do in housing for Lee County to attract folks there.
I
So
think
thanks for
it's-
asking about that.
But I think part of it is starting early. You know, you can't wait until the end of the school year to start
Right.
filling holes. You've got to really start that process earlier, and I think that's what Ms. Murdoch did. Stacy, talk about the principals, and I think that's the strength
Key.
of the principals there are, that's one of the big impacts that we're seeing too on retention, on progress that they're making.
Absolutely, I'm glad you brought that up. Yeah, having the right people in leadership roles in our buildings is huge. It makes the job for the superintendent much easier when she has reliable school leaders in those buildings to be able to lead. Dr. Farr, who is at the high school, again, would be he's going into his second year. He's just brought a new energy. He came previously from the Jacksonville School District. So that is something that I think is important, is he had an outside view of, and he has worked in other districts outside of his own district. And so he kind of brought that perspective into Lee County. And, you know, there are some moments when you're going into school districts that are struggling or failing, and you've been in a district that has not been like that. When you come in, you're surprised, okay, because you're not prepared for, everybody assumes that, hey, I could take that over and change that quickly. There are, these districts that are in state authority, their problems have problems, and trying to address that and figure that out. So Dr. Farr has done a great job and has been very open to coaching and working directly with the support pieces that we've built around him. So that's been huge. Miss Branch is at the elementary. If she walked in this room right now, everybody in here would just feel like a breath of fresh air. She's energetic, she's enthusiastic, she's young. Does she have all the answers? No, she doesn't. And she would tell you herself she doesn't. But she herself has been open to coaching and has really, her coach is, her elementary, for Solution Tree is Sarah Schultz. She's a big Solution Tree author, writer, books. She's got several books out. That's her direct coach with Brent. So she's got two powerhouses right there supporting her, and she's listening and she's implementing. And when things don't work, they work as a team to figure out what's next. So getting the adults all on the same page to work together is huge.
And it's the desire of both those principals to succeed and see their students succeed, see their teachers succeed. But it's also, they both have high expectations of their students and their teachers.
Yeah, the other day when we were at the conference, when they brought their teachers to Little Rock, two different occasions, and we've seen this in several of our districts, when we first go in for state authority, professional development and the priority and the emphasis that has been there prior to us coming, a lot of times has been very, very low. We saw this specifically in several districts where teachers coming in late, teachers not showing up, teachers answering their phones in the middle of PD. I mean, it just mind-boggling. And this is in multiple districts. This is not just here. And so they have really put the priority on, this is what it means to be a professional in our district, and this is the expectation. And so, you know, last week there was a teacher who came in about an hour late, and I saw Miss Branch. She did this, like, I see you. You just started sneaking. You know, I'm paying you to be here, and you just came in an hour late. And then a little while later, actually I went back 2 days later, and I was down there, and I saw a high school teacher coming in about 2 hours late, and Dr. Farr saw her, and you know, he said, good morning, good morning. And she went in, and he said, but it was a great coaching opportunity about, now, Dr. Farr, what's your expectation? You gave the expectation everybody's going to be here. What's your conversation going to be with that teacher now? You can do it kind, you can do it compassionate, but we have expectations, and we're going to hold our teachers to that. And so just raising the expectation of what we expect from the professionals in our communities is important, and they're doing that, and they set the example.
Great, great.
So Michael Stone, one thing he said to me when I was talking to him, the new superintendent, yesterday, I said, how's it going? And he said, I'm so excited. And he said, let me tell you what I'm most excited about. I'm excited to get in that school and meet my kindergartners, because I've always wanted to be in a district in which I could think I can have a 13-year impact on these kids. So he's there for the long haul. He's from that community, and I think he's going to make a great impact.
That's awesome. Wonderful.
All right, Pine Bluff. So very excited that we have hired 2 new assistant superintendents, Philip Carlock and Calvin Gregg. They both started July 1. Philip Carlock is from Little Rock. He was the principal at Stevens Elementary. If you know anything about him, he is known for his work with the community and setting up community school practices. He actually had a bank in his school. He had an arcade system in his school. Creative, out-of-the-box thinker. So we're hoping to bring some of that into the schools that we're working with in Pine Bluff. The community is very interested in that community concept within their schools. And so I feel like he is somebody who can help us achieve that in the district. Calvin Gregg is an experienced superintendent coming from Dumas. He has a background in the business office and finance area, so we're hoping that he's going to be able to give us some strength and stability there, and someone who is experienced. So we're excited that for both of those gentlemen to get started.
Had been in Pine
and
Bluff
has been in Pine Bluff before. Yes,
previous.
principal. Okay. So familiar with the community, familiar with folks. So I feel like that is going to give us a lot more stability in our administration central office. We're kind of dividing where Philip Carlock is going to be working primarily more with elementary principals, and Mr. Gregg is going to be working primarily with our secondary, but they also have other responsibilities within the district. But we've been waiting for July 1 to get here so that we had that additional support there in that central office. So that's huge. In May, at a request from community members, we completed a third-party safety audit on the high school. I do not have the report. If I had $1 for every time someone asked me if I had that report, I'd be very rich right now. We brought those folks in. We squeezed them in May to get on site. So we wanted to do it while the kids were still on campus to get in and actually have a safety audit done. And this group came in and was able to do it, but they did tell us it was going to be 6 to 8 weeks for a report. I will tell you, I think Uvalde, which has delayed. I mean, this is their area of expertise, and there's just been lots of demands for their area of expertise. So I think that has delayed our report. I did visit with them last week and just kind of asked what was the status, and they said it would be coming very soon. So I'm hoping to get that within the next week or two. We have had some informal discussions on things, and we have tried to start moving forward on some of those. For example, making sure our students have student ID badges on, and that they have them from first day of school, making sure that we know what our perimeter area is, and we're already having conversation about fencing around the school, making sure all of our cameras, intercom systems are adequately working in all areas. So there are some preliminary pieces that we are not waiting on, we're moving on. But we are eager to get the report. I was asked about the timeline for Pine Bluff, and I just wanted to remind you, this is the timeline I shared with you in January and again at the last quarterly report. This is also the same timeline that I shared with the community in the January meeting that was made public, and we're staying to this. And so that's going to leave the board with some discussions upcoming very soon. We talked about in the 22-23 school year moving forward with a possible appointed board of some type with limited authority happening sometime in the fall, and trying to have that in place by November. Okay, so to do that, this board is going to have to start having, if you accept that recommendation, we're going to have some discussions and possibly some work sessions on what you want that to look like. Okay, so that's something that we want to hold to. That gives us time to put something in place, and it also gives them time to get ready for possible elected board the following year, which would be their 5-year mark. Okay.
I know last time we talked about new board zones that
has been done.
Okay.
That has been done. So again, on this, we had our spring new board zones. We had we're looking at their fiscal distress. Again, as far as their total balances, they're good. Where they're not good is the stability and structure in the business office and record keeping and timeliness. There is lots of support that needs to be there. Continue to have to reduce our audit findings. We have added Dr. Eric Saunders to our team, and we are adding an additional staff member that has more bookkeeping experience to work elbow to elbow with our districts on setting up systems within their business office. That is an issue in every one of our districts, except Lee County, and in Lee County, we outsourced it. APSRC does the main finances for that district, but we do have someone internally that has to get everything there. So there's training that has to happen with that person. So there's still system pieces in all those districts that we are having to work through.
And you think Mr. Gregg's going to help with that also,
Yes.
making sure things are done in a timely fashion?
Yes, and he has the experience and knowledge of the different sources of funds that are coming in. Pine Bluff has a lot of different federal funds that are restricted, and you can only use them in certain ways. And so having that knowledge of what you can do, because again, remember, that's what got Earl into trouble, is misusing different funds. So school finance is extremely complicated. And so those are the pieces. You asked me yesterday about the millage.
Yes. Yes.
So that it will be on the ballot in November. It was on the ballot before and did not get the support. Dollarway millage is at 40.8 and Pine Bluff is at 41.7. So it will be on the November millage and will continue to be on there until it's adjusted.
Okay, so it has to pass at Dollarway before it would go on there? Okay, so it's an election? Okay.
Yeah.
Ms. Newton, on the board zones, let me talk about that a little bit.
Yeah,
because I don't think we've had a chance to really brief you all on how that process went. You know, we worked with Arkansas GIS, which they work with, I think, probably every district, or at least the vast majority of districts, on that process. So they have great expertise on that. They actually did community meetings, got feedback on the 3 initial proposals. There was a community-generated proposal that was submitted. GIS went and looked at that, compared that to the standards for redistricting for electoral zones. But from that, that particular proposal did not match up with the standards. But working from that and modifying some of the initial, they did come up with the proposal that we did adopt.
Okay.
So that process started with proposals, gathering community feedback. Mrs. Warren put out, I think, a survey, and although the response was, I think, probably less than 2 dozen that actually responded to that, there was feedback that was generated from it, and Shelby at GIS brought what he said, hey, this is even better than the first 3, and that's what was adopted and has now been submitted. I think we got the final document submitted to the state election commission
recently,
earlier this week.
Okay, does that go out to the public now in some fashion so they would know where their board zones are?
It
or how does it, it's a process, I'm sure.
Well,
commission.
The county, I know the county, each county sends out when there's adjustments made to zone designations, whether it's quorum court, school board, whatever, legislative districts, they get updated voter registration cards. I know we did, so that's something we follow with the county to see if that's the same process that's followed in other counties.
So I guess what I'm saying is, how would public find out which zone they're in, I guess?
Well, that's the way they do it. I mean, so the county election commission has all that information. The county clerk's office has that. It was in the paper, so it was in the Pine Bluff commercial, the adoption of that zone. But we'll follow up to see if there will be especially with the November election coming up.
Right.
We want to make sure everybody knows what zone they're in. Although it won't matter for the election of the board this time, it will be important for the future.
And so, kind of talking about that, the millage election would not go on these zones. It would go from where the old Dollarway district.
The old Dollarway district. Yeah.
Yes. Okay.
Yeah. So those the residents of what was the old Dollarway district have to vote to adopt the new millage, so that the millage is uniform. You still have a number of school districts in the state where there are different millages that go back to pre-consolidation maps.
Okay.
And just for whatever reasons, community reasons, that those haven't been adopted.
Yeah.
So it's not uncommon.
Right. And so the only way it would change would be either that, or if let's say Pine Bluff wanted to raise their millage as a whole, and the Pine Bluff raised the millage, would that make the dollar weight change? I'm just.
I don't know the answer to that. We'd have to research that.
Okay.
I don't think an increase automatically, I mean, like if you're, let's say you go out and ask for a 5 mil increase, and it's district-wide, I think the 5 mils would apply, but it would still add on to whatever that base.
Whatever that was,
Yeah,
okay.
I don't think it
That makes
automatically
sense.
adjusts unless the voters of that former area affirmatively vote that way.
Okay.
But that's something that, we can do some research on.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Just from my personal knowledge, on the human capital piece, you did say that the same model that Lee County used, you guys are looking at using that, utilizing that same process in places like Earl and Pine Bluff.
So yes, but Pine Bluff, so they do have someone who they have hired for just retention and recruitment this last year. That's Dr. Monica Morris, and that she works on that. The community itself, Go Forward Pine Bluff, has gone into a grant with the Waltons around retention recruitment, working with local college, UAPB. The Educational Cooperative has retention efforts going on. So you've got several different entities working on this. What we need to do a better job of is coming together and working together. And so that's the main thing, is everybody kind of coming together and working the same direction, which I think we can. I mean, I absolutely think we can.
And I didn't mean to interrupt you a while ago, sorry.
Let's see, and I do just want to remind the board that you do have community people who are engaged in Pine Bluff who they came yesterday, and they were smart to leave because you'd have been here all day long. But they did drive back down here this morning, so we'll get to hear from them in a moment. But we will, if I will start trying to schedule different school districts to come and give an annual report so you can see the superintendent and ask specific questions there on how they're starting their school year, kind of what their priorities and how they're moving forward.
And so, but specifically, I can't talk,
With Pine Bluff.
specifically on Pine Bluff, we are thinking that possibly by November that we would start transitioning to a appointed board then.
I would think that we probably need to have a work session in either August or September on what that would look like. Because that would come as a motion to the board. And if it's going to be where they have to submit applications or stuff, we want to get that going so that we can actually have it in place.
Right.
One of the big conversational so with Pine Bluff and establishing this board we're doing this a year ahead of how we've ever done this before, and it's really about trying to get back a organized voice for the community because they have some big decision points, and one of those is facilities. I will say we have asked Ms. Warren to go back and look at the cost of actually going for a millage right now, and possibly looking at doing an extension for 6 months to a year. The cost due to COVID, and this is not just with Pine Bluff, this is statewide with districts who are having building projects right now. The costs we're seeing have gone up anywhere from 25 to 33%. So you are seeing lots of districts say we need to pause. We're also hearing that there could possibly be some legislation or some additional funding from that direction. So again, none of that's been decided. It's kind of almost a wait and see. We also think it's important that we have this group put together so that we have a much more where they're making some decision points, and it's not us. And we have said that all along, is we're not going to make a decision about the high school, where it's going, what it's going to look like, those types of things. We want to put it back into the community.
So if we pause the building project, that would let the community make that decision.
And it would allow us time to get this board going.
Right.
And because if they're going to have to ask for a millage. And so again, as we're talking about this and what the cost of doing a building project now and waiting a year, what the difference might be, I mean, we want to make sure that the community feels like they have a voice in that.
And there could possibly be more funding to go along with it.
It's possible, Commissioner. Maybe. Well,
you don't know. You don't know.
Legislation.
Yeah, okay.
hard with Little Rock and making sure that board was also trained, and so that would also give that opportunity to have the board trained as well.
And with Little Rock, you know, the point of contention with them was they were after that 5-year mark when that board came in, and they were still, so this is allowing us to do it on the front end, get some folks who are interested in being in those positions, do some training, have some, let them kind of see what the different pieces of plans and things that we're working in the district. So yes, that's part of the reason too.
Okay.
It's not perfect. I wish I could bring a perfect plan where everything just fits together and everybody does what they're supposed to do. But we have stayed consistent to this timeline that we put out over 6 months ago.
Okay. Anything else? Board, Mr. Sutton, anything you want to ask? No? Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Ms. Freno, did we have to vote to have public comments on report day?
I don't think you have to today,
Okay,
because
all right.
it's not an action agenda
Right.
item.
Okay.
But I'll
We
look
just
into
have-
that more, but I'm sure y'all would vote for public comments.
We would. I don't have a doubt. So we're gonna take public comments. Okay. I just want to make sure I did it correctly. Welcome everyone. We're glad that you're here, and we're looking forward to hearing your voice, and we want to hear what you have to say, because you are the community. You are the stakeholders, and we want to make sure you have your voice. And so our first one is Charleston Colin. Good morning.
Good morning. I am Charleston Colin, the salutatorian of the class of 2022 at Pine Bluff High School, and I've decided to come to explain today why I am proud of the school district that's made me into who I am over the past 13 years of my life, and that's exactly why. Throughout my high school experience, we've had recruitment opportunities and motivational speakers come in during different assemblies, and they talk to us to, or expose us to, different colleges, scholarships, and other opportunities that will help us be successful in our future. The connection and the bond through the community of the Pine Bluff High School with the University of Arkansas at Pine Bluff has provided me with the full scholarship to the university. I'll be majoring in industrial technology, management, and applied engineering. I have also completed about 600 hours towards my license with the program in our school, and my Pine Bluff High School instructor has connected me to a local cosmetology school that I'll be able to attend, and I will complete my cosmetology license while I'm in college. People in our communities reaching out to each other and being able to create these opportunities to help us be successful is what makes me proud to have Pine Bluff High as my alma mater. Through the years of being at the Pine Bluff School District, I have never been harmed. During my senior year, I was a part of the Student Advisory Committee, where Pine Bluff High students met with Dalloway students, and we discussed different ideas and solutions for our district. I felt a very cooperative spirit between us two schools, and with numbers, we are stronger. Thank you.
Congratulations. Don't go yet. Congratulations. That is awesome. Salutatorian. That's a lot of hard work, and the scholarships, and then also doing cosmetology. We're so proud of you. And congratulations. That is awesome. You just keep it up and keep us informed of how you're doing.
Okay.
All right. Good job. We have Braylon Starks.
Good morning.
Good morning.
My name is Braylon Starks, and I was the valedictorian of Pine Bluff High School, class of 2022.
Wow.
Today, I want to share with you my experiences with the Pine Bluff School District. Over the past 13 years, this district has molded me and provided me a platform to be in the position I am in today. There was a close-knit family bond that allowed me to know that I had a support system putting my best interest forward. Pine Bluff School District is a great district, and I personally feel that if you take a look within the district, you will find talented and successful graduates and future graduates. I've provided various opportunities to further my education by talking to different college recruiters and speakers. Because of this, I will be attending UAPB on a full ride and majoring in industrial technology management and applied engineering. The strong bond within our community has provided us various opportunities to work with people and garner hands-on experiences that will benefit us in the future. While in the district, I served on the Pine Bluff Student Advisory Board with various students from around the district. A key takeaway from these experiences is these meetings that the cumulative effect of both schools being put together is necessary. It will allow for students to reach max potential and allow for the district to continue to be on the rise. I often felt very safe around this district. There are continuous efforts and measures put in place to help maintain my safety. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Don't go anywhere because we're going to recognize you. Valedictorian, wow. And both of you were there at the whole K-12.
Yes,
So that is wonderful. And Secretary Key, I think this deserves a picture, don't you?
Sure.
Yeah, yes. So Ms. Smith or somebody that has a phone? I got it. All right. Come on, Charleston. We are very proud of you two and looking for great things from both of you. But we're very proud of you. Congratulations. Two great students here.
I used to sit on this side.
I do want to say this, and I hope I don't get emotional about it. There are great students like these two students all throughout Pine Bluff School.
Yes.
And all throughout every school district that's under state authority.
Yes.
And we don't talk about them enough. And so thank you for being so brave to come up here and remind us that you're there, and that you have a voice, and that you're working hard, and that you are the one that's going to change the future.
Yes.
So thank you for what you do. Thank you. You were just professional, and your speech was wonderful, and it was a great reminder. This is what we do while we do it, right?
Yes. That's our why.
That's our why. And they did a great job reminding us that
Yes.
today. So thank you too for coming
Yes.
back.
Yes.
You've been there twice, so thank you.
Yes. We appreciate you very much and did a great job. And I'm serious. We want to hear about your future as you go into college and do great things. We want to continue to hear how you're doing. So thank you for being here today. Let's see. We have Alfred Carroll signed up. Yeah, you got an easy act to follow. Yeah. Welcome, Mr. Carroll.
Wow. Good morning. Good morning.
Good morning.
Trying to operate this telephone here. I had some things to say, and didn't know my cousins would be here. I did not know my former student, the valedictorian, would be here.
Oh, well.
Dr. Cohen and Mrs. Cohen. Wow. Wow. Did that take up any of my 3 minutes?
Huh? No, we haven't started yet. You're good. They deserve honor for sure.
I had some things to say, but certainly you don't live through a moment like this and not be moved.
Yes.
And not literally be moved.
Yeah.
God bless you. I heard I did say good morning, and I did hear some great things in Assistant Director Smith's report and some of the other reports that reminded me of some of the my experiences over the last 39 years in the Pine Bluff School District as teacher, assistant principal, and elementary director of ALE. I heard something about doubling down, double dosing, what we used to do in direct instruction. No student that is behind is going to catch up if you feed him less or teach him or her less. I heard the good things about what's going on in Lee County. That model, sad to hear about Helena, West Helena, but that model in Lee County, I was very much moved with that, and I did see the new assistant superintendent, Greg's We were both at a local chicken establishment. And if you know Assistant Superintendent Greggs, I attempted to hug him.
Yeah.
A massive man. And so I did hear some good things that will cause me to alter what I want to say just a little bit. But good morning again to this board and Director Keys. When I spoke with you last, I expressed concern as to the quantity and quality of the assistance the state is providing the Pine Bluff School District and former Dalloway School District. I continue to hear and see the outcomes of the administrative team of superintendent, appointed superintendent, and ADE rep, and I'm still concerned. It is suggested that the Pine Bluff School District, if I have it correctly, is partly at level 5 designation because of teacher recruitment and retention. All over America, you know, no school has not been affected by teacher shortages. Not just the violence, not COVID-19, but opportunity. Opportunity, as our salutatorian and valedictorian has described what they're studying. They're not studying teacher education. So schools all over America are experiencing that in terms of having the personnel and the funding to be able to pay them. So that's not new. But the numbers that I'm looking at and hearing about suggest that if the teachers and students at the Dalloway High School and middle school had been brought to the Pine Bluff High School and Jack Roby Junior High on conception of this annexation, that there would be possibly no level 5 designation for Pine Bluff in terms of teacher recruitment and retention. Because what I've looked at in terms of the numbers, and I want to pass it out to you as I take my seat, is that there is something like less than 400 students between the middle school and high school at Dalloway. And they have 143 total teachers. They have a very small student-teacher ratio. If those students were, when the annex was done, was brought to Pine Bluff High School and Jack Roby, Pine Bluff would not be experiencing a problem with teacher recruitment and retention. And in closing, I do want to say this. I did hear some very good things, and I'm very proud of Pine Bluff, proud of my family, my friends, colleagues, and I do want to say this. I still believe that there ought to be some punitive language added to the Code of Ethics for educators that targets school superintendents who knowingly find their school districts in physical distress and continue to allow spending and spending and spending until they get into the conditions of the districts that you have had to come in and take over and try to resolve that. There ought to be some punitive language that does not, because when I was a teacher and even a director, I couldn't spend a puck-on without the superintendent signing off on it.
Thank you.
And no school district should have to suffer after a superintendent allows that kind of spending to cause a whole community. When we talk about a school in some of these communities you've talked about today, we're talking about a community to crumble.
Thank you, Mr.
When
Carroll.
their school crumbles. Thank you so very much.
Thank you.
And you
Thank
all
you for
have
being here.
a great day. And I'll pass these out as I take my seat, or I'll just leave them here, and you all can get them.
If you'll hand them to me, I'll make sure, hand them to us, we'll make sure everyone gets them.
All
All right, thank you. All right. Mr. Wright, Mr. Julius Wright. Good morning.
Good morning. To the State Board, Commissioner Key, and others present, I am Julius Wright. In December of 2021, January, and May of 22, I came to you as a concerned Pine Bluff School District stakeholder for the consolidation of Dalloway and Pine Bluff School District. After reviewing the Pine Bluff School District Legislative Quarterly Report for July 2022, I felt disheartened in that the fiscal governance and district operations section made no mention that the Pine Bluff School fiscal year balances had not declined since 2017-2018. The Earl School District Legislative Quarter Report included fiscal distress indicators, but Pine Bluff School District report has no indicator nor any audit findings. There were none in the 14th of September 2018 order or Arkansas State Education declaring Pine Bluff to be in fiscal distress. The Office of Coordinated Support and Service failed to mention the following items. The Intern Federal Programs Director, who spent prior time adjusting, and we looked at the interim superintendent. It identified the expenditures in completing the federal applications. In addition to her assigned job has been replaced with employment of another assistant superintendent who will be paid in excess of $100,000. Another assistant superintendent was employed instead of much needed security on all campuses. No mention of added security. In annexation, business managers making continuous errors, resulting in teachers' pay shortages. The staffing issues of the Pine Bluff School District can be solved by merging the high schools and middle schools. The Office Coordinated Support and Service Summer of 2022 priorities include problems that the annexation governance created. Relocating the 6th and 9th grade levels from their assigned location instead of permanently merging the Dalloway High School population of 173 into Pine Bluff High School, and the Robert F. Moorhead population, 211, into the Jack Rover Middle School. The securing of the Pine Bluff High School campus could have been solved by using $500,000 of the $3.5 million annexation funds to secure the perimeter of the high school campus with fencing similar to the Southeast Arkansas College at 1900 Blake. Pine Bluff School District has a right to know after 5 consecutive years of increased balances if we are still in fiscal distress prior to the consolidation of building a new high school facility. Thank you for allowing me to have public comments.
Thank you, Mr. Wright. Okay. Ms. Charlene Wright. Good morning, Ms. Wright. I have to have them too.
I have to have my glasses. Good afternoon, Arkansas State Board members, Secretary Key, and all others present. I, Charlene Wright, in December 2021 and January and May of 2022, came to you as a concerned Pine Bluff School District stakeholder as a 40-year retired educator for the consolidation of the Dalloway and Pine Bluff School District, and I as well am a very proud Pine Bluff High School graduate of the class of 1975. I would like to reflect back on the year of the annexation governance in the Pine Bluff School District the last year. In May of 2020, Barbara Warren became superintendent over the Pine Bluff and Dalloway school districts, which were a violation of Arkansas Code 6-13109. And in August and October of 2021 through December of 2021, the Pine Bluff School District was deliberately denied feedback prior to the annexation, which created dysfunction, chaos, deception, incompetence, and confusion. July 1st, 2021, the Pine Bluff School District was denied the consolidation governance, whereby we would have had a new superintendent, and school board, which was a violation of Arkansas Educational Support and Accountability System. July 1st, 2021, Dalloway is still under state authority after 5 years in which Secretary Key says you do not have the authority to keep them under state authority after 5 years. December 2021, a strategic community planning committee was appointed that included Little Rock, Watson Chapel School District, Whitehall residents, and others. July 2022, the Annexation Governance Administration refuses to merge Dalloway High School, 173 students, and Robert F. Moorhead Middle School, 211, which is creating staffing problems for our fiscal distress and level 5 support. The stakeholders' dysfunction, chaos, deception, incompetence, and confusion was exhibited by a vote of no confidence of the Dalloway High School faculty and middle school, a vote of no confidence of 140 Pine Bluff School District stakeholders, an open letter of the Go Forward Pine Bluff to Secretary Key, the Pine Bluff High School PTO letter to Superintendent Warren. There has been numerous roundtable meetings with Mayor Washington, with Secretary Key, and Governor Hutchinson and Pine Bluff School District stakeholders, as well as a student walkout. Our final questions: is the former Pine Bluff School District the receiving district? The incentive money, $3.5 million, has not been used to accommodate the Pine Bluff School District to meet exit criteria for level 5 support nor fiscal distress. Why was $5,000 of the incentive monies not used to secure fencing for the Pine Bluff High School campus and needed security? I would like to correct Ms. Smith and even Secretary Key. You stated that the Dalloway residents would have to vote on the millage. We've been informed by the Jefferson County Courthouse Clerk's Office. All it takes is a resolution from Secretary Key or Mrs. Barbara Warren to inform the Jefferson County Courthouse that Dalloway has been annexed and that their millage would be the same as the Pine Bluff School District. So someone needs to be informed of that. This came from the Jefferson County Clerk's Office. They don't have to approve. They were annexed into us. So they assumed the same millage. Okay. Thank you for letting me have public comment.
Thank you. Thank you, Ms. Wright. Matt Mosler? Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Well, my name is Matt Mosler, and I'm pastor of New Life Church in Pine Bluff. And let me first start off by saying I am mad at you. I appreciate the job that you're doing. I know this is a really tough job, and I can tell by the way that you approached our students that you really have a love for the students in this state. So I know this is a tough job. I know we have a lot of schools that are in tough shape around this state. So I appreciate what you're doing. I really do. I guess I'm here as a concerned grandfather because we moved to Pine Bluff in 2017 to plant a church there with the mission of getting people back to work, getting families back together, and restoring hope in the community. And my children moved there. They didn't have to. I didn't really want them to until they had grandkids. Then I made them. But they both moved there independently, started jobs, bought houses. They're invested in the community. Our grandkids are going to go to Pine Bluff public schools when they're able. And so that's a big passion of ours. Now, one of our missions is to try to draw people, to try to draw business, to try to rebuild that hope. And we've been pretty successful at several of the things that we've tried, but until we get our schools back in shape, it's nearly impossible to bring business and industry here. I'm very encouraged with everything that I've heard here. I know that Assistant Director Smith has done a great job, and I appreciate everything that you're doing. But until we get local control, until we have, and to me, the main point of local control is accountability. We are not a community that is having to be dragged, kicked, and screaming to accept responsibility for our schools. We're chomping at the bit for it. One of the things I learned when I moved to Pine Bluff was that the perception of Pine Bluff is not quite the reality. And I think when a lot of us move there, and we've had several people move there to help us with our ministry, we have this idea of what Pine Bluff is and who Pine Bluff is and what it's all about. And it has not been the case. We have a new energy, a very forward-moving momentum in that community to rebuild a once great city. And it's a unified momentum. I tell people I've never lived in a city that's quite as unified as Pine Bluff. Regardless of all sorts of characteristics, there's a huge groundswell of support to try to improve this community and turn it into the kind of community that it really needs to be. But until we have some sort of control and accountability over the direction of our schools, it's just not going to happen. And I think, again, we have the people who want to get involved in this and to have a stake in some of the decisions that have been made and need to be made that frankly we don't have a lot of agreement with. We're going to continue to be held back from what we can achieve. So that's just my encouragement to, as quickly as possible, return us to limited control and eventually full control of our school board, so that we can have that accountability to move forward in everything that we want to do. So thank you again for your time, and I appreciate all your hard work. Thank you.
Thank you for your encouraging words. We appreciate that. Trammell Howell.
Hello.
Hi.
Look, I told them I've been so emotional after the kids. I've been trying to get myself together because they know how much I love them and how much I love the school, because my children, I have a child that's still there, and I have my daughter who's 38 who graduated from there, my son who's 20 who graduated from there, and I have a senior. Yes, Lord.
I've been there
this year. And we come for a reason. We just want you guys to know that we are here. And Reverend Moser said it best. We are here and we're ready to move us forward. And thank you, Ms. Smith, because she said more. We learned more today than we have in the last 2 months of what our school is actually doing and where we're actually going, because there's still a breakdown in communication from our administration, because she doesn't return. Our emails don't return, but Ms. Smith has returned my calls, and I am appreciative to that. So that's still our breakdown when I say the community, knowing what's really going on, because I was going to come up here and ask for a public meeting so that way we can tell the community where we are, where we're going, what we're doing, what we need to do next. And I was sitting there thinking, I thought about it, and I said, I'm like Secretary Keith. Heck, I'm impatient. I'm like him. I want to see some things. I want to see some things moving. I want to know that we are moving in the right direction, that we have the right people in place. And for us to get Mr. Greggs as assistant superintendent, that is definitely a plus, because I know what Dumas has done. And I know Dumas has not had any audit findings. I know Dumas has gotten teachers from the Philippines to come and fill that gap, for their school district. So it's like, okay, that's a plus to me. I've learned and found out about our other superintendents, because I want to know who we're working with and what we're doing and what's our next step for us. And for that to take place, we got to have communications. We got to have communication, and it can't be every 2-month communication thing. We need to know where we're going and what we're doing, because right now I know that our capital budget was approved for us to have our HVAC system replaced in our gym. Our restroom's supposed to be done in our gym, and the gym floor is supposed to be done. Well, they did the HVAC system, they did the floor, but they didn't touch the bathrooms, and that's what we really need. When you flush the toilets, you got fumes, you got sewage, you got everything. So we got a nice gym floor, we got a nice, we can be cooling, hot and cold, but if you go to the bathrooms, you're gonna die. So, it's like, come on now, and it's not like we didn't have money. So, these are some of the things that, like I said, that I feel like we'll take a step forward, but then we take 3 or 4 steps backwards because you don't look at the full picture. You're not thinking outside of the box of what we all need to be doing, and for our, and I'm glad she talked about the safety, because I was one of the ones who's been asking for the safety audit. Where is it? What are they saying that we need to do? Because like I said, a lot of our kids can't say that they, don't feel safe because they've been there. Like these kids, they've grown up in this, so therefore they know. And just like this summer, we had Dogway kids and Pine Bluff kids, they went to summer school together. We had no problems. So it's the adults that keep thinking that it's a problem when we put these 2 schools together, and we get all these kids in the same room together, that it's gonna be, these kids have grown up with each other. Pine Bluff is not that big. They're probably all related in some kind of way. So, that's all the things but I just want you guys to know we're here. We want to move forward. We are ready to move forward. We got names, we got people who are ready to be a part of the board, who are ready to step up, take classes, do whatever needs to be done for us to continue in the building of our community again.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Rosalind Mauser?
Rosalind Mauser.
Rosalind.
Lived in Pine Bluff since 1965, graduated from Pine Bluff High in 76, returned in 84 and have practiced law in the city for the last, unfortunately, 37 years. It sounds like a long time. I'm kind of new to the game. I don't have a child in the school system. I've never been a teacher there, but I have been in business there. And Matt Mosler says it correctly. We've got to do something about our schools so we can not only grow our kids, but grow our community. Thank you to Stacy Smith for letting us come back today and not letting us be here all day yesterday. Thank you, Ms. Smith. Thank you for your service to the state. I mean, just being here for a few hours makes us realize what challenges we have. We are very excited to know that the security audit is on its way. I do believe there are sufficient funds to secure our campus in the manner that they think we need to do, the items that Stacy mentioned, and there are probably going to be some additional things. We are very glad that Chairman Keys recommended what I understand is the number 5 scenario that suggests 7 zones for our new limited board. We have a group that's been formed. They are getting together at Chairman Key's recommendation, both resumes and letters of intent. We understand that this board considered those when Little Rock was in a similar position as Pine Bluff. We need, and we received from Stacy today, the information about the timing. That's kind of what we thought. We need a little more definite information about where to send those resumes and those letters of intent. We understand that those people might not be selected, but we would like to be a part of that process. We totally agree about training. I am learning as I go, and I do think part of the problem we had before, that we had a board that perhaps was not as trained as it should be. And if your board's not trained and functioning, everything else is probably going to go downhill. So that sounds like very good news. We would love to participate in a community meeting, whether it's to all the community or if Stacy and this board feel there needs to be a smaller group of people to get together. Like Matt said, we're ready. Everything else in Pine Bluff right now is going up. For 37 years, I've practiced law there, and it's been going this way until Simmons Bank decided to form Go Forward Pine Bluff. And that has really been the impetus. We have 2 new city council members coming on this next year. With new library, new aquatic center, downtown Pine Bluff is moving forward. We've got the teacher program, we've got the ALICE program, which is asset limited, income constrained earnings. We have a program now that we've developed through Go Forward that's nowhere else in the nation, where we are making available through over $2 million raised in private funds for people who are living in low to moderate income areas. There are just so many things going on, but as Matt said, this is the final component. If we can't get this going, everything else may fail. So we hope we may never agree like this, right? But we've been like this, so all we gotta do is get a little closer, right? This is not the goal, right? Just closer is the goal. Thank you.
Thank you for being here. And we've said together, working together, and we talked about PLCs. PLCs is teamwork, and it's going to take teamwork for us to get there, and teamwork within the district and teamwork within the community. And so we appreciate you being here this morning and being a part of the team and the voice of going forward. And we want to hear more great stories like we heard today. Great stories, great kids. So we're very proud of both of you and other students that are at Pine Bluff. Anything else? All right. Well, you said yesterday I could say without objection we are adjourned, and Ms. Freno is not here, so she can't tell me no. So without objection, we are adjourned.
No objection.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Sutton, for joining us. We appreciate it.
Yes. You all have a great week.
We